What?
Three, four.
Oh my god, Britain's just dead. What?
Dark Knight will get that shot in. He has one more shot. He takes out the Undertaker. Now it is impossible for the E100 to win.
And the Matildas do one better, and it does look like they will be the champions of Season 3. Matildas will take it.
There's the pummel party about to come out.
Yep, and Knight's the first point of focus, and Knight, oh my god, he's just been deleted.
I don't think he can hit the I-7 without the I-7 hitting him yet.
Oh, he can! He's
Actually insane. Unreasonable shot from Napalmer, but can he get the reload off? Can he survive? Does he know where Dell is? And does Wymo miss? No is the answer.
Hello and welcome back to another wonderful week of the ANZ Premier League here for World of Tanks. My name is Blue Panda. Joining me as always, Cthulhu. We've got a fresh face. We got rid of that old smelly elfish guy. And Karath, you're going to be coming in this week to fill in.
I mean, I was going to say, when you said, like, new fresh face, like, that's far from the case over here. Like, I'm as close to as being burnt as Elfish is, but it is good to be back. Obviously, week 7 of ANZPL, it's starting to heat up, and yeah, I mean, I'm keen just to obviously get my voice onto a highlights reel. That's why I come in every single week. It's not because of the Ivory Tower doing some other event.
Yeah, look, what event? Who knows? There is tanks and only tanks. Everyone knows. I'm still a World of Tanks Na'Vi fanboy, let's be honest. You got to keep it with the OGs. But Cthulhu, it's nice to have a week here where we don't have to sit and just harp on about these darn fantasy points.
Yeah, look, it does finally feel like a nice sort of breath of fresh air. Although, I mean, even without Elfish being directly on the broadcast, there's been an attempt at baiting me into some travesties to be done on either predictions or even in a fantasy. So, look, I suppose even when off the broadcast, Elfish is a menace.
Look, he always is. We know this for a fact. But I mean, we're coming into sort of that homeward stretch. We're in the second round of that double round robin, Karath, and so far we've seen the the expected suspects stepping up and taking some of that command in the form of the Sentinels and of course the Scorpions. But the team I want to talk about at the moment, the Comets, the newcomers into this competition who have stepped up. They've made a decent cut so far. They're not sitting in a position where they're fearful of getting relegated just yet. Look, there's still more competition to go. But I mean, is this what you expected from these young upstarts? I say young upstarts. Some of them have been around for a while.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you said, like, Na'Vi, like, I think Safi's been probably around as long as that when it comes to World of Tanks. So, look, this is... my greatest expectation for the Comets was if they were able to kind of, like, gel together and actually push the opposition. I think they've already surpassed the goals in terms of jumping from the BL into the PL. It's always going to be a big jump. They're starting to take names. They're putting on some respectable results. And I think that's always going to be the key part is... because obviously we get to see the background of a lot of it. I think any additional victories from here is going to just further add on to the resume. I think already they've proven themselves in the season. They proved it by about week 3 or week 4. Everything is just adding on to it now, so...
I mean, of course, Cthulhu, it's not just the fact that they are sitting out of that relegation spot at the moment. They're in position to make playoffs come the end of the season. And I mean, that's a huge achievement, not just promoting into a new competition, but then going one step further and potentially finding yourself in a position where you could, miracles coming along, you could potentially win the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, for Comets, I definitely think that they have a colossal chance with the way how they've been performing, even despite, Power continuously talking to us about the fact that they're struggling to find the numbers. I think this is... whilst, yes, it is definitely quite a curse and not having, a consistent 5-stack, but it always sort of kept things interesting, let's call it that, purely for the fact that they always end up, whilst yes, it's always Power sort of at the helm of it, but it's always some rather unpredictable plays from the players under his lead.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be interesting to see just how they take to the field this week, of course. But let's get on into it. Let's start off with our results from last week, of course, seeing how things played out in week 6. I mean, for the most part, it was kind of business as usual, but I mean, Karath, we saw that map in the middle. Obviously, Melbourne Matildas falling 3-1 to the Comets, solidifying themselves in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, once is happenstance and maybe a bit of early season jitters. If it happens twice, you generally have a pretty good expectation of, well, the Comets actually have the Matildas' numbers. I I mean, Matildas have been struggling quite hard this season, so I am not as, I think, upset about those results or like as surprised at those results. But everything else, yeah, the same across the board. I think those were most of our predictions. I say most. So I can't remember how well Cthulhu's going.
we choose not to talk about that, Cthulhu. But as we head into our team standings at the moment, with the teams currently where they are, and you can see it's as you would expect, Sentinel sitting up top. The one surprise loss that they did have, we know that they would rather not talk about. But you look at the bottom of the table, the Adelaide Action X Matildas having, I mean, a horrendous run of it at the moment.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. When it comes down to Action X, a bit of a sort of a fall from grace. I'd have to say, at least for partial reason, purely for the fact that just the way how things went for them at the very beginning of the season looked very promising. I mean, almost a complete rehash of the roster that managed to look rather actually exciting from the way how they've been playing, the way how cohesive they looked for a brief few moments, and after that they all started falling apart, allegedly having some sort of communication issues here and there. Certainly didn't seem to have given a whole lot of promise now to what now is a rather, well, fallen Action X roster.
And he may not be here this week, but we'll give him his dues. Let's have a look at the fantasy team of the week and see how they stack up coming in the competition. And I mean, for the most part, it is as you would expect. A surprising entry of CJ there, given how rough it has been for Action X at the moment, Karath, you reckon?
Yeah, a couple of, I mean, I would say maybe a couple of surprising names where, like, yeah, sure, CJ, he's not really the first person you think of huge numbers. A lot of the time when you look at the Action X squad, you normally expect that maybe from someone like Speed, maybe from someone like Dongalord. Twit, I've seen a couple of times. There was a reason why he was a 5-star last season. He is a very consistent player, given if they're in the brawls and whatnot, he can definitely shine. I think a good comment over here is, or something that's interesting to see, is the Scorpions and how many members they actually have as Team of the Week. You have Raspberry, who has been performing at an excellent rate, Aussie, who has been ever so consistent, and Napper. I think I've talked enough about Napper since Season 1, where he's been consistent. So he's probably the least surprising out of everyone from the Scorpions. Yeah. Aussie has been on the up and up, so has Raspberry. Rainbow and the Return, who are they? They're like 4-star gamers. I don't care about them. So,
well, I mean, look, all jokes aside, Krath, there were those. One of those is one of the two players that I wanted to talk about, Cthulhu. I mean, Raspberry and Rainbow. We've seen. I mean, may not necessarily put up the biggest of numbers, but they're instrumental into how their teams find success. And we got to see perfect examples of that last week. They may not be the ones finding all the damage of the kills, but they're the ones leading the spearhead. So as we look at our All-Stars matchup, you can understand why Rainbow is second on the leaderboard. But again, surprise appearance for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th positions, Cthulhu.
Yeah, look, definitely, it's quite a sort of an interesting dynamic where it's, well, the team itself not really farming up the win points, but it's the players farming up the fantasy points, it seems, at the end of it all. Look, it's good to see that at least for Sentinel's top 2 is sort of good setup for both of the players, Return and Rainbow, certainly putting out the effort. Yeah, look, sort of the similar sort of storyline continues for Matildas, where yeah, Crit and Whippet, really good players on their solo performance. The moment it comes down to the team performance, things are certainly not looking particularly as grandiose as one would have thought. Same goes for Dongalord. He himself, look, I would outline saying that CJ sort of Trax and Donga, that trio is a really sort of good setup, even including Gloucester. Just unfortunately, they can't seem to be able to find that sort of the good closure at the end of it all. It seems like it's either just the rest of the players, even like Val, even like Speed, just couldn't really find that sort of right pacing for themselves. And sort of from there on out, it's just it seems like maybe partially even a conflict of interest in terms of what they want to do.
Well, let's see if this trajectory does continue and have a look at our matches for this evening. Of course, up first, the North Sydney Sentinels taking on Adelaide Action X. Match 2, South Sydney Scorpions taking on the Cairns Comets. And to close it out, it'll be the Perth Panthers taking on the Melbourne Matildas. I I mean, Karath, if there was one matchup that you had to pick out, which would be your highlight for tonight?
Middle one for sure. It'd be the Scorpions in the Comets. I was a little bit robbed last time watching that match, where unfortunately the Comets only had 4 members. I think now, given the context of the Comets actually pushing some of the opposition, I think this will be a good test for the Scorpions. I still favor, obviously, the Scorpions a little bit more. Looking at the predictions, obviously, wow, this looks like such a homogenous kind of prediction. Who would have seen this one coming?
Look, Kasula, all I have to say is it's a good thing that, the American president, Mr. Biden, is handing out those pardons, because I think production might be on something this week. The contrarians in the production booth, but for the rest of us, I think we've seen the stars align. We know exactly how this should go on paper, but do you still think that, do you agree with Karath? Is that middle matchup, the Scorpions versus the Comets, a bit of a coin toss potentially tonight?
It definitely could be. Look, I'll say this sort of, this goes on for the record. I sort of tried to sort of figure out prior to the matchup if even Comets will have, a full 5-stack, and then if they do, look, I would very much be looking forward to their performance, because I reckon them at their full strength, I reckon they could take on Scorpions in a very sort of even way. Whereas if we are struggling to find the numbers for Comets yet again, yeah, look, it would be basically trolling if I would pick against Scorpions.
And obviously, Karath, you being the spokesperson for production, can you justify their position at the moment so far down the prediction leaderboard?
I mean, it's production the entire time. The fact that production is that close to Cthulhu, production is meant to throw as hard as possible. If you're, nearly losing to production, that tells you how much that you suck at predictions. I'll put it that way. But I guess touching a little bit on Wargaming a little bit over here, I think the Scorpions versus Comet one is actually a little bit more interesting. You'd still have to favor the Scorpions. I know I'm looking a little bit ahead here, but Comets, it's going to be an interesting matchup, for sure.
Oh, most definitely, and so is our first one of the evening. Of course, the Sentinels on your screen at the moment. They are dominating the player leaderboard at the moment for very, very good reason. Cthulhu, they've had some very, very solid matches, only dropping 1 so far. But, I mean, honestly, given the lack of changes at the start of the season, how good they've looked, is there anyone that can potentially halt this progress?
Honestly, look, I'll be honest, probably the only team that could really hold their progress in one shape or the other, I think, would be sort of more so just Action X to sort of reintroduce that, the upset into the fray. Apart from that, no. As it stands, Sentinels are very much sort of rolling on the full high speed without any sort of ways to really stop them. And I think even themselves, they're not looking to really stop themselves in any shape or form.
And obviously, Karath Rainbow, we got to have a chat with him last week. Talked about he was benched for a bit at the start of the season. He's now come back. He's having a big performance with the crew. He's obviously going to be quite pivotal. But on the other side of that coin, Adelaide Action X, if you had to isolate one player in particular, who are you looking to lead this team to a potential victory tonight?
It has to be CJ, ultimately. It's with Adelaide Action X, they live and die by the call. It's been a tricky season for them so far, because you look at the results and you look at this matchup in week 2 where obviously they faced up against the Sentinels, they took the victory. A lot of it was down to how they strategized and how they called. And obviously the players were able to pull it off, but I felt like during the last couple of weeks it's been a little bit more devoid of strategy, the cohesion isn't really all there. I think they just need a mental reset. I was talking a little bit actually with them behind the scenes a little bit. I think this is going to be they just got to take it easy. It doesn't really... I think towards here, you stop worrying about finals. You just go, all right, let's just get down. Let's just play some tanks. Let's just have a bit of fun with it and kind of see what result comes out of it. If CJ's reading the game on point, everyone just relaxes and they're able to execute, then, hey, they're able to take a victory for sure. I think if they tense up, then it's going to be all over.
And Cthulhu, a keen-eyed viewer may notice that CJ's background looks a little bit different tonight. That is because he is in fact playing in-house at Fortress Melbourne. Obviously, all the action.
So is Wymo as well.
Yeah, so is Wymo. So all the action, some action. Apparently, there's something going on in Melbourne. Some people are telling me, and he's obviously decided to get along for it. Do you reckon is that going to be a bit of a buff tonight, having the in-house power?
Well, yeah, look, could be, get a quicker access as well to to the bevies as well. Maybe one of the ways.
One should not be operating a heavy piece of machinery like a tank under the influence.
Hey, I said I didn't imply the beverages that would be sort of making things a whole lot more difficult
you're right.
in operation.
Stay hydrated, ladies
Stay
and gentlemen,
hydrated,
at
Kings.
home. Harass, we have our map vetoes on screen. Sentinels opting into Cliff, Tundra for Action X, and obviously Ghost Town going to be our tiebreaker. Early feelings about what we could be seeing tonight?
3-1. Sentinel's going to go up 3-0, then they're going to drop the last one.
Oh, Karath dropping the hammer here. We'll drop straight into our first map. Cliff, gentlemen, take it away.
Yeah, look, Cliff definitely has sort of became the equivalent of how it was Mines for Scorpions. Cliff is sort of that home ground for Sentinels. Would you agree, Cav?
Yeah, 100%. Like, the reason why I said that is because the Sentinels, ultimately, their brawling potential is just too good. Like, and I just don't have the confidence in Action X, even with plays like this, where they're trying to catch Rainbow off guard, potentially, to even make it work. I think what Rainbow just needs to do here is actually just keep driving forward. Yeah, like, this seems silly, but he needs to keep driving forward, and he needs to get control and just take a full clip. There is no way you can stay there and survive against 2 CZ. So it's just like, look, I'll take 2 shots, I'll see where the rest of the tanks are, and then we just need to commit over and find the overmatch before, like, it gets started. So this is what I mean by Adelaide Action X. They've got the initial good setup. Awesome. Now, what are they going to do? Because the Sentinels will try to find that overmatch and overbrawl.
Yeah, I think sort of the ideal situation here would have been for Action X to try to just isolate one by one. The setup that they have right now is, I don't hate it, really. Because, I mean, with Gloucester's position, he gets to dump in a whole clip into Cindy. So that is, already almost 1,000 damage out of the equation. Now another 400 damage flies in. So Cindy's not in particularly great situation. Now that Returned and Rainbow have separated, it's all down to Rowandy and Wymo. So theoretically, introduce Iron Guard, introduce CJ, and maybe Gloucester to double up. You could theoretically isolate those 2 heavies from there on. It's a battle of the 2 mediums and a heavy. So the positioning is there. The setup is there for Action X. It's just how they're going to act up on it. I'm liking, though, the position of Dongalord, who's now chipping some more damage.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to take back my instant
great
prediction, because I thought that Sentinels would have read that there was an overmatch and they'll need to push somewhere. But I think in moments of hesitation where Rainbow goes, there's 3-2 split here, people don't commit in together into certain positions, and as a result, it kind of falters from there. Sure, you got the 2 CSs wrapping in from behind, but they can't really find an angle to really dig out Trax. And Trax is playing this really well right now, trying to figure out how they can dig out Cindy. They know that the Batchat has flanked, but Trax is going to take that shot any day of the week. CJ obviously is going to be the focus point for the trade back for the Sentinels, but like I said, the VZs can now start slowly moving up. They can find these positions. I think Iron Guard actually needs to just drive underneath to the cliff and just force the fight. They've got the Batchat there from the south. They need to force the AMXs to over dump and flip sides. That's what they need to start doing.
Exactly that. Well, it seems like Donga's play here so far is working rather well, forcing the AMX to actually turn around, so Trax gets basically a free farm position to really just overgo into. But the issue being with the CSs now pushing up, well, his life might just get a whole lot more difficult. So, as funny as it stands, both Trax and Rowandy are sort of back-to-back to each other, trying to fend off their own enemies.
I mean, CJ as well is just going to stop the CSs from proceeding any forward. You can see how hard it is coming in from that side. Yeah. I mean, Action X actually playing this perfectly, where they use a bit of a surprising strategy. Obviously, 2 VZs and a Batchat to contest the very common CS position over there at the Rock at about F3, G3. They take donut control. They don't bleed out early on around Cliff. And as a result, they're able to leverage the tank advantage and AHP advantage to a victory. And, I mean, still, it is... You look at the HP difference, sure, Action X have all the tanks up at the end of it, but Sentinel still did a hell of a battle to even get it back from such a disastrous position.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still been quite a gargantuan effort. Poor Wymo gets set on fire amidst all of that. But yeah, look, this has been a phenomenal read from Action X, the way how they were given the ground. This was really nice. And I mean, you look at the position, yeah, look, Sentinels are a little bit like, wait, hold on, what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they just got caught off a little bit by surprise. And like I said, Action X, that's exactly what they did during week 2 when they got the surprise, and now we're seeing it again.
I mean, they had us in the beginning, and then they started to bring it back, and then Action X figured out actually we've got a hell of an advantage here. Let's push it. So it was very much a case of swinging momentum throughout the entirety of that first round. But I mean, Karath, we've seen a couple of series so far this season that have started with a great first round that have then resulted in a reverse sweep. Do you reckon that maybe we are going to see? Obviously, you'd hope that Sentinel start to bring it back, but do you reckon Action X have done enough to catch them off guard to maybe get at least one more?
Absolutely. I think the way that the Action X were playing just then, it kind of shows that they're happy to try something a bit different. Like I said, it's the games that I was watching them play the last couple of weeks, it was almost like it was devoid of strategy. There wasn't really any goal on where they wanted to go, on what they needed to do. Whereas today, it was very clear on what they wanted to execute on the attacking side of Cliff. And that sometimes is a difference, especially with all of, like, on the 5-on-5 format. If you have an intention and you know what you're doing, it is a huge difference, like, compared to, like, when you're just stumbling around and you're hoping to get lucky.
And I mean, Cthulhu, the elephant in the room after that round, Trax, 3,700 damage. I would be surprised, I think, if anyone was openly putting Action X members in their fantasy lineup just now. But I can only imagine that there are people out there who would be kicking themselves after seeing something like that.
Yeah, look, definitely Trax, well, back into the general swing of things. So, because remembering week 2, week 3 performances from AX, they were the ones that were pulling some really good numbers. Trax has been, the consistent performer. CJ been putting out the numbers. So yeah, look, it is a really good thing to see from both of these players on the side of AX that they are putting in quite a substantial amount of effort. And I mean, Trax on the CS63 just shows that he can really flex both, playing the what is usually considered, a meta, and well, nowadays a meta M454. Now he's on the medium tank as well. This actually worked out, I want to say, almost too well for Action X.
Well, I mean, you look at it. Iron Guard, the lowest fantasy points for Action X, is tied with the highest in Rainbow for the Sentinels. That is just how much of an outclassing we witnessed in our first round here on Cliff. But, I mean, again, you're looking at the bounce back. Obviously, Krath, you'd imagine the Sentinels have taken that and said, hold on, something just went horribly wrong, and they're going to be looking to adjust. But you could see there was so much early damage that was dished out, so much punishment that Sentinels left themselves open to. Yeah,
it just comes down to the Action X strategy. So, obviously, the AMX M454 has been the flavor of the month, but there is still a huge problem with it, which is speed. Which it just doesn't get into the position fast enough. And you can go back to the beginning, right? I felt like the opening part, people will be watching back and going, what is Rainbow doing driving like that? He's going to cop damage. It doesn't matter how, like, the only thing that he could have done differently was, okay, driving to the left instead of the right, which means he still cops damage because you don't know what's going to be at hill.
Well, hopefully he's got both hands up in L shape. He knows which is left and which is right. Jumping onto the second half of Cliff. Take it away, gentlemen.
I will be convinced that AX will be able to win over Sentinels if they take Cliff 2-0. I'll be genuinely honest here with you.
I mean, it can definitely happen. I definitely see a world where it can happen. I can see that if Action X just come in with, like I said, more decisive moves. They went in for the jugular at that time. They saw Cindy was isolated the AMX-50B over there at C5, and they just went straight in. So CJ, very lucky not to cop a few shots over there as... Oh, Return needs to get out of there now because there's a lot of forces down there at the south of the donut. Return's going to see that and he's going to go, oh, geez, I need to get out of here ASAP. He's going to use a repair kit. If he gets tracked, that is it. He can't get out. He won't get tracked, though. They need to pick CJ. They need to pick CJ on the side of the Sentinels.
I mean, there is already the overmatch happening with the double 50Bs already coming around. CJ is not particularly having a fun time, plus Trax being only in a VZ55. There's only so much that you can do with the 2 shots over the clip. But he is managing to somehow stay alive, which is probably the most surprising part, of just for how long he's able to do that, which does open the opportunity for Action X to actually keep on applying the damage and applying the pressure. This is huge. I mean, for what it's worth, for the amount of time he stayed alive, this is great.
No, like 100%. That him staying alive turns a couple of turrets and allows them to kind of get 2 additional shots in. Once again, the Sentinels are on the attack, and the problem here with their position right now, they're just stuck in a massive 3-way crossfire. And they've bled a lot of HP. They just need to play patiently. This is really hard to get out of this position. So sure, they got the tank advantage, but they're down about like 3,000 HP right now. And there's so much rotational potential for Action X. They can just drop off. Iron Guard can just watch that corner forever. Donga can even just rotate all the way if he wants to. And just find a cheeky angle to reinforce what he needs to. They don't need to do anything right now.
That is true. Main problem here for AX though is that they're starting to bleed the sort of the ground control, because for a little bit Sentinels had a really good sort of upper ground, but decided to actually move away, start, trying to go for maybe a little bit of an overmatch. I mean, you look at the players like Donga, like Gloucester, still full HP, Trax and Iron Guard still, well, Trax at half HP, Iron Guard something like, well, 2/3. So still in the running. Suppose the main person that they would be that Sentinels would be looking at is Rowendy, currently being the highest on the health pool. Everyone else sub 1k HP, meaning 2 tops 3 shots, and that is about it. A GG well played. Even for Cindy, this means basically a high roll from an M454 will be basically just game over.
Yeah, pretty much. What is it, 540 or 560 alpha off the top of my head now?
Pretty sure it's 540.
540, yeah. I've seen 600 rolls come out from that gun, so it is definitely in the realm of possibility. Like 600 was like an insane roll that you could get in an Object 277. 600 just feels like you get it all the time in the M454. Ooh, Gloucester, that is... Don't think it's going to be a shot that's going to 100% cost them, but Dongalord's position is so important right now. I just want to point out the fact that he was revealed earlier on, I think by the CS, Wymo? Rindy?
Trying to just let me see myself out of here.
That's unfortunate because he then cops an additional shot, which pretty much means that he is down to now a single shot. I think Dongalord just needs to put the, just press the brakes over here. He doesn't need to do anything right now. Just him staying there, it allows Gloucester to free peek.
Yeah. Well, Kev, as well, for what it's worth, Action X per se don't really have to do anything because they're on the defense. Time is ticking. Currently, Sentinels are being stalled out.
If you told me, alright, if you took away the names and you said to me that the team right now that has 4 tanks is doing nothing is Action X, and the team that took some fantastic position are the Sentinels, I would have believed you. The scenario somehow flipped again.
Yep. That is the funniest part about it all, which is, the way how it's about to go. But it seems like it's a full-blown push, overmatch at least the numbers, and hope to get some burst damage in, given that the 50B is alive. So Rainbow and Cindy need to be the first ones to be on the chopping block here, as already the damage starts to sink in. That's a perfect focus fire.
Yeah, they know what the dangerous parts are going to be, and this is like, there was no way the Sentinels were going to come back and win that. I'm sorry to say, like, after that Wymo got picked, after their positioning, there was nothing they could really do. They had to try something. They had to hope that maybe they could catch the timing where they get lucky, they could pick an isolated tank. Sentinels are really good at fighting back, but not in this case over here. There was just enough bleed from the Action X to make it work out, and it's going to be ultimately the guns all into battle. And Action X actually going to be going up 2-0 in the series. Wow.
Correct. You'd probably be the one to know this. Obviously, HyperX, our lovely sponsors. Make sure you're spamming HyperX in chat. I don't know. Do they make RGB underwear? Because I think we definitely need to be sending a pack out to the returned after that round. He got the surprise of his life, and I genuinely don't know how he survived as long as he did.
No, listen, they're really good CS players. They understand that you're gonna have to cop damage on the exit. You need to leave as soon as possible. And this is what I mean. Action X looking a lot stronger this week, a lot more decisive with their moves. And as a result, I think the Sentinels are getting caught off a little bit. Like, they're getting caught off. They're not looking like their usual selves.
And the follow-up question, of course, do they make Jandals? Because old Cthulhu out here looking like a bit of a flip-flop, hitting up production, trying to get his predictions changed.
Hey, look, I mean, at this point, kind of moment where, Look, no excuses for me. I just lost faith at this point for, well, up until today in Action X, the way how things been going against majority of the teams seems rather dire. But look, it seems like they are back into the general swing of things. And yeah, maybe what Kev mentioned in terms of just them just relaxing and playing more so for the enjoyment of it rather than, aiming for the top positions seem to have actually done the wonders.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting sort of, way to play out the round, I suppose would be the best way to describe it. I mean, you look at it, returned, obviously went and tried to scout as much information as he possibly could. We then saw the 4 other members of Sentinels position, post up on the hill, but Kareth, that was almost their downfall. They backed themselves into a corner with absolutely no way out on the attack, and all Action X had to do was play to their win condition, which was the clock.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I see it all the time with how the Sentinels often play, is like how they get this map control and they just stifle out their opposition where they don't get map control. This time it's been flipped. Action X get all this fantastic map control early on. They use, like, normally you expect the AMXs to come up high. The fact that they go low all of a sudden means the only free pick is CJ, and CJ is just dancing around the cliff and buying as much time as possible. And from there, because you can only go forward into mid from the Sentinels, where do you go from there afterwards? No tank is a free pick. And that is such a hard thing to overcome, ultimately, is when you get yourself in a position where no enemy tank is a free pick, and Action X are not allowing that opportunity, that is when the scenario has flipped on its head. So, like, I'm really, really happy to see how Action X are playing. A lot more decisive today, a lot more understanding what their win condition is. But I also have enough faith in the Sentinels as well to dig deep in Tundra and bring it back to the tiebreaker. This, in my mind, is now really opened up the series. I initially thought this was going to be an absolute stomp. This is no longer the case in my mind.
I mean, I suppose the argument could be made here a little bit, Cthulhu. The Sentinels, it's not their A team. I suppose Ruendi getting a bit of play time this week, and maybe that takes away from it, but I get the feeling that this is more a case of Action X. They're just playing some insane tanks right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is where I think Action X is sort of fixing their mental sort of issues that things been and all the things that were going behind the scenes, at least maybe temporarily patching those up, and it works out perfectly when you get to see them, fully flourish.
Well, we'll see if the Sentinels can maintain and hold fast. But look, the odds are a bit stacked going into Tundra.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, Kev. This is the least playdate I've expected. Action X to actually come out with some of the bigger plays.
No, definitely surprising. Obviously, for a lot of the first-time viewers, everyone's going to be looking at this and going, "Wow, Action X like the best team in the world. Like, why is everyone going to be predicting? Why has everyone predicted against them?" The last 5 weeks or 4 weeks, they've not played to this caliber. It's been a lot more dominating from the Action X. CJ's, like, the calls are being listened to, I feel like. The players are making the right micro decisions. We're all kind of getting into the correct areas to try to win the game here with 100% play. Once again, early spots coming in from the south side. Donga just slides a shot out, and he's just instantly on the clip.
Yeah, look, just making sure that he at least gets some sort of chip damage before he prepares for the actual onslaught to procure and, well, to happen. It is, though, quite interesting to see, though, the actual comp lineup that Action X have decided to bring in. This is something that more so is out of sort of Whippet's fever dream, the introduction of the 260 TPs, something that he's been even talking back in the last season, that the high alpha tanks might be starting to finally make way into the meta. Well, first it was the AMX M454s, now it's the 60 TPs. Look, I don't hate it. I'm definitely quite curious because it, in a similar, almost in a similar way, how they would something like VZs, it is a very high burst of damage, but then quite a prolonged reload.
I think it's just situational on how you use the VZs, right? The whole goal with the VZs is because you have 2000 burst at the initial approach. If you're able to get that burst fire down, then it changes everything. So, look, as obviously the Bat Chat spot out what's going on to the south, there is a push from Iron Guard over at the north side of things, and this is also the Minotauro a little bit out of position. tracks. Obviously, the 60 TP howitzer doesn't really land a shot.
Yeah. 60p though will be, it should be at least to a certain merit, should be fine, given that there's also, you know, the far shots from Gloucester to try to at least land some form of damage, and indeed one of the shells does land. The main problem here is that Iron Guard may end up overextending, whereas the M454s are starting to actually go on a full rotation. So if Iron Guard gets isolated, this round could be very, very well forfeited by Action X.
It's pretty hard to isolate this 277 though. He can dip. Wow. Clearly, I've not been practicing my words. I completely expect to get absolutely memed on for that, like, slip of the tongue. He can just dip into that little alcove over there and just pretty much stay safe. The 60 TPs can pretty much cover it off. You can't really push, I feel like, from the Sentinels. However, they've done the right thing over here, just reinforcing with the AMXs. Those, the Super Conquerors are spotted out to the south. So this is what I mean by the part the Sentinels are playing around this really well. They're seeing this right now. They're responding accordingly. Everything is going according to plan for both sides. It's going to come down to the execution, which has made it a very, very different game to what we've seen from Cliff so far.
Yeah. Yeah, look, right now the way how things are very rapidly evolving, this is a rather north heavy push. With Gloucester being boosted by Donga, this is actually panning out to be rather an interesting push, because on one hand you have the 277, the Batchat and the S-Con, possibly even one of the 60Ps could attempt to cross over, but I'm highly doubtful of that. And possibly try to just force out the engagement so that one of the 60Ps, namely CJ's one, to actually just be able to get a shot into the Minotauro.
I think,
which would be, you know, an ideal play. But
oh, this bait, though, is so good from Rainbow. But the key here is how fast the AMXs can get rid of the opponents pushing in, because Dongalord has to be the focus point. If Dongalord is allowed to stay alive, and they're allowed to pick this Minotauro, then problems are going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gloucester is also taking a heavy amount of punishment already. Rotations need to come around. Donga, surprisingly enough, staying alive with 27 HP. Still got 3 more shells to go in. So actually, this is not a finished battle. Gloucester, though, needs to sink at least 1 more shot before he's felled, because this is where problems will be mounting. Unfortunately for him, no shots, no damage landed. CJ forced now to actually push in. So is Donga. Well, he's being pushed and eliminated, courtesy of return.
Yeah, really, really well played from the Sentinels. Not over-aggressively peeking once they do spot the push. And I think over here, Adelaide Action X getting a little bit too enthusiastic and not realizing that the AMXs or where they were, not suspecting there could have been a trap. I would have liked actually seeing maybe a bit of cap pressure being placed initially by one of the 60 TPs, then forcing the Minotauro to overextend a little bit before committing in. So, look, still a lot of HP for, obviously, the Sentinels to dig out, and they need to be cautious. All it takes is maybe, like, a couple of unlucky shots coming in from Action X, and things could turn around, but I don't think it's going to happen over here. The Sentinels, like I said, are very, very good at converting these games from 99% game to 100%, so...
One could even say they're quite masterful in the art of baiting on some of the plays. Look, the way how they held their 2 AMXs, it certainly, you know, did a certainly sensational job, which...
It's what they needed to do. Like, that's what the AMXs were designed to be in that position, to make sure the Minotauro couldn't be overdumped, and the Sentinels are really rewarded for a victory on that.
Absolutely, yeah. There it is, yeah. Nice, solid, concrete sort of round, one could even say.
I am surrounded by degenerate. It is just... Look, it's great to see, you know, Kev, that you're a bit of a, you know, history buff. We got to see old Richard the Iron Guard show up there, have a bit of fun with his 277, tuck himself away and make sure that he wasn't in too much trouble. But yeah, I mean, Sentinels, they take a step back after map 1, but what a phenomenal read into the play. They use Rainbow as bait, and they just mop up. Look, there was a couple of moments there where it looked like maybe they just misplayed it, but they back themselves, they win it, they take the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Tundra is a much more dynamic map because it's harder to rotate on. When you rotate in Tundra, it's a lot more difficult. You either have to take a couple of shortcuts. Action X did not take shortcuts this time. They tried doing the proper protocols, And then they made that blunder. I mean, it's hard to say it's a blunder. Time is ticking. You know what your pick is going to be. You have to commit on. It just so happens that Sentinels also have the protocols and the understanding on how to punish it. They had people watching over towards the south. They had people making sure they could read what was going on. And as a result, the tanks were all in the right position, ready for the play.
Look, just to, stay on theme, it was a little, a bit of tidbit information that we had there returned, averaging old 69 fantasy points per game, just so we can keep with the theme that we've been running with after that first round. But I mean, Cthulhu, it's that situation, you work with the information you got, you make the call. Unfortunately, it's not always the right call, and you look at a team ace coming out of the Sentinels onto the Adelaide Action X, but you still got one more round just to push to the tiebreaker.
Yeah, look, it's far from being over yet, and absolutely for Action X, they still have a solid chance to really get themselves out there, push themselves out into sort of the top positions. But look, I'll be genuinely honest. This round might have mildly rattled them, given that we've seen a couple of moments when we switched over to the post round cams. Look, they didn't look too happy about the outcome. And I think the way how Sentinels really played it, especially namely Wymo as well, on that initial sort of spot with the proxy onto Batchat, it was almost as if they knew. So they see a Batchat being picked. All right, boys, Donga is gonna go for that scout. What are we gonna do instead of actually waiting for them to just come to us and bum rush? Push up one of the tanks. Yes, the two AMXs will be ready to rumble on the one line, but it's one of the few tanks, namely this time it was the S-Kong, to actually push up and just to ensure that the Batchat just doesn't gather enough information.
And of course, obviously, we've still got one round of Tundra to go, where obviously we could see this clutched up by Action X Kev going into this, but we saw that stat earlier on in the round. Before that round was played out, 60% attacker-sided win rate. So, I mean, you got to feel confident if you're a Sentinels fan that there could be a chance at a tiebreaker.
I'll put it this way, like, Sentinels could literally be down 0-2 or 0-3 in any series where it's like, alright, this is like their final game. If they lose it, they're out. And I would still be like, yeah, the Sentinels are still favored here. There's a reason why. It's when it comes to clutch time, they step up pretty hard. So this is my question now to Action X on how hard they're going to step up after they've encountered some problems. Obviously, their attack didn't go to their favor. How are they going to defend?
Well, jumping on into the last round of Tundra. Remember, Kev, it's a family-friendly show.
That's it. If anyone asks like why casters do these tongue twisters or anything to warm up, that's the reason why. So you don't make a Freudian slip on broadcast. So.
Hey, look, I mean, for what it's worth, it can still be fun for memes and impressions on the Twitter. Say you go the ye old way of Keanu Reeves during the Cyberpunk whole kerfuffle. Get a bit of those just framed pictures of just words taken out of context. I mean, sum that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, like, I'm past the age of farming up impressions. Look, the reason why we're not talking about the game is if I need to tell you what is going on the screen right now, I think you need to understand what the Minotaur's max speed is, what the AMX's max speed is, where the cap points and Tundra are, and then you guys can tell me. I don't need to tell you what's going on.
Look, I mean, I'm all for what a Sentinel's doing here with the full push, full send. Even well, yeah, Tankipede is probably the best way to really describe this. Honestly, I'm all for it because the way how Action X set up, it's the very similar sort of issue for them. They set it up for the big brain players. They're being countered by just this.
I mean, it's the old tried and tested. Dump your forces into the 2 flag. Take control of the rock. Play some cap pressure and go from there. And it all comes down to the brawl. And we know the Sentinels are pretty good at brawling. So Action X, they need to gather their forces and figure out how they're going to brawl as well.
This is actually a sensational sort of play for a swing around between Rowandy and Cindy, where they take that control around the rock, which basically prevents CJ from pushing out into the hold down position, aka, well, say goodbye to countering the cap pressure. So Rainbow just gets to basically sit pretty and use the Minotauro's turret for all the intents and purposes.
The key here, though, is going to be Return and how he goes in this fight with the Super Conqueror as well as the M454 coming across. So Returned, obviously, if he stays... the longer he stays alive, the more hard it gets for Action X to actually get the reset. So
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a whole lot more problematic, given that neither of the two shots have actually penned through Return's armor. So Iron Guard and Trax are being well and truly sort of pulled away from the rest of the roster. For what it's worth, Return's fate here, for the most of it, is being sealed. The problem being is that Return could still pump out quite a number of damage numbers to prevent Trax from going full send.
I think it's all over here. The Sentinels have bled out way too much, and the Action X have actually successfully found the overmatches. And sure, the Sentinels are going 3 tanks into 2 right now, but the HP difference is just so low at this stage. I don't know how Return's still alive, but I mean, 3k HP the difference right now. They're going to try and get the pick onto Dongo. They're trying to get away from the Minotaur in CJ, but I don't think there's any escaping the fact that the Minotaur is going to come rampaging in. He's going to come off clip pretty soon. He's got a lot of HP, and that should be Action X actually creating another upset.
It is quite funny when it happens like this. Out of all the teams, it's the team that has been seeing the most sort of downfall to a certain degree. And it's almost fitting that it's their return to form is off the back of, well, quite a solid win over the top 1 team currently. Yes, Donglord will fall at a brief moment, but as it stands, yeah, this is for the most of it a done deal.
Yeah, Iron Guy can easily take that one-on-one against Wymo. He's got plenty of HP, even Trax over there supporting towards the end. Really well played by Action X on that defense. Not rushing it, making sure they're understanding their targets, focusing it down, and well-deserved series victory. A big upset tonight already. And Cthulhu is officially tied with production predictions.
Yeah, it's become quite clear that you've obviously got something on the mind, talking about your old mate Richard and things being more hard than they should be. But, yeah, speaking of how hard things are currently, Cthulhu, you can't even lean on your fantasy picks at the moment. This is rough times. You and Sentinels in the bin.
I'm in for the ride, honestly. At this point, this has been an absolutely wild roller coaster to the point where I'm just in here just to enjoy my time. Similar to how Action X are here, I'm far from being at the top of the position on the predictions. Maybe eventually I'll get to maybe top 10 on the fantasy, but even then I kind of just like, yeah, it is what it is kind of deal. I'm enjoying my time here.
Your statement would imply that at some point you were ever on top of the predictions, but that would be hard
I was getting to a good positioning.
I don't share the top of the podium, unfortunately. No one is moving except for production, which will allow. But I mean, Karath, it definitely has been an interesting night from the perspective of watching the Sentinels, where it doesn't feel like they've been too particularly strategically intensive, bar that first round of Tunge. Everything else sort of seems to be reactionary from what we've seen.
I mean, the attack was actually pretty decent from on their side of Tundra. I'll go into it a little bit later. I think Cliff, they just got blown a little bit out of the water. A couple of strategies which are a bit gambly, honestly. If none of the CSs were sent towards that position, if they just took full-on mid-control, if they used a different strategy, it could have been a different story. So, I'm not... Like I said, I'm glad to see, like, an Action X series victory. I am not that upset about it. It is definitely a surprise. I don't think the Sentinels are going to be perturbed by it, though. They're just going to look at it this week and kind of go, if they caught it off by surprise, what's something we can do to reinforce our protocols? They're currently sitting first, maybe second after tonight's results. They're not going to be upset.
Production's talking some mad smack for a group. A group that has yet to hit double digits here on the prediction leaderboard. Collectively. I'm sure by the end of
no, but here's a difference, right? Production was never designed to win predictions. It was designed to always go against the flow of things.
I don't know whether it was, but I don't know whether it was by design or if they were ever able to.
Cthulhu's actually trying. That's the difference.
Here's the funny part, though. For the memes, last week, decided to switch around my predictions because all of y'all, first of all, copied me. Second of all, decided to be bland bozos.
I don't know if there's any truth in that. just absolutely hellacious lie, Cthulhu.
Oh yeah,
But-
oh yeah. Go on.
What we do know, yeah, look, Karath, he knows which hand is which. That's good. That's always good. In tanks, need to make
It's
sure
always
you
good
know
on broadcast
directions.
if you know how to do it. Otherwise, you just come out doing like this and you just look like an idiot.
Yeah, go on.
I don't know if that's a flex or not, but okay. Look, what we do know, though, for a fact, Cthulhu, after that, Matilda's position has just gotten worse. Matildas were already bottom of the leaderboard. Action X was their next closest team. Now that gap is that much harder to overcome. Matildas are in a right spot right now.
Oh, look, I think for Matildas at this point, it would be very odd to say that, they'd still be, aiming for the top positions. At this point, similar to how things been for Action X, just go send it to the, just in for the fun, really.
And I mean, Action X, if they could take down the top team in the competition, surely with the remaining weeks of the season, Karath, they can take down anyone.
Yeah, they can also take down themselves as well. I've seen this situation too many times before with Action X. I'm like, that what they needed to do in the first half of the season is literally secure a spot so they could not, they don't have to rely on any calculations. I've been here for 5 seasons now. I've seen exactly how Action X play. It gets you every single time. Either they do really well and you go like, oh man, I can't believe they didn't make it, or they do decently, they have a bit of hope and you go like, yes, we can believe in Action X, and then they don't make it the final hurdle for the 3rd time and you're like, why did I do this? It's heartbreaking every single time. So I just choose to not believe in CJ. I just choose to believe he deserves to go in the bin, and that is a lot safer for my heart and my head. Because
I'm beginning to understand why we got rid of Sandman and Karath. It's just not fair. The players keep running to HR. They just don't deserve this treatment.
I am
Even though
HR. They just run to me and they go, "You can't talk trash about me." It's like, bro, you can. It goes both ways, so it's completely fine. I've been traumatized too much. I used to be an Action X believer. Yeah.
It's like how Sandman was a Bulldogs believer.
Absolutely. Until the very end. And then, he quits. And then I think, the Broncos as well, then just capitulate and lose. It's the same thing here. It's you believe until you realize it just hurts too much. And you just gotta cut it off, man. You just gotta take away the negativity.
Oh, boy. Apparently, we have a right treat coming up in just a moment. I won't spoil the surprise just yet. We've already had one special guest just walking around in the background there for you, Kev. But, I mean, Cthulhu, Action X. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the glaringly obvious, the coin toss team at the moment. They can take down the Sentinels, but they struggle against the teams that are at the bottom of the leaderboard. What needs to change? What needs to start going right for them to keep this trajectory up?
Look, honestly, for one, is they just flat out need to chill. Because from what I've seen, what I heard is just people getting too quickly too heated, and going into all of this, we are sort of looking into them just needing to just take a chill pill and sort of listen to CJ.
And look, speaking of listening to CJ, it won't just be him. We've got a guest appearance apparently in the house. CJ and Wymo here for a chat, gentlemen. Well, look, you're playing on home turf. You're in the Fortress at the moment. What was it like? Did it give you that just next level play, do you reckon?
I would say it elevated my game, all the pressure of the people watching, just put them on my back and carried them.
Oh, yeah. Why, what thoughts?
Well, yeah, look, they played pretty well. We figured, we've won enough times at Fortress, so might as well give CJ one.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I'll go on to my next question. This makes it awkward now because it's I have to either praise one person and trash talk the other, or I just trash talk both of you. I think that one's probably going to be easier actually.
Just a heads up, Wymo. He's been talking some mad smack about you guys coming into this interview.
I mean, I'd out bench press Wymo any single day of the week anyway. Everyone knows that anyway. Cliff, walk us through it, CJ. From your perspective, was that something that was designed today? And I guess for Wymo, when your team saw the tanks that came up through Donut, was there an instant reaction, or was it something that was a little bit too surprising for you guys? So I'll start with CJ first.
So I guess we've known that Sentinels like to play fairly heavy mid on Cliff, and they just kind of like to just outbrawl and just outskill your opponent, like outskill their opponents, I guess. So we tried to just find a way that we could counter it, try and catch them off guard a bit.
Easy. And what was Rainbow's as well as I guess Return's reactions when they first saw those tanks, Wymo?
Yeah, we kind of predicted that they would go bowl. They had the tanks for it. We just played the brawl incorrectly. I think that we could have done a lot better. I don't necessarily think that it was an issue with the strats or we were counted or anything like that. I think we just played it poorly, and we'll work on that in the future.
Now, one more question. Remembering back in the first half of the season, Wymo, Return mentioned that it depends on the day if you guys feel like winning. Was today sort of a similar case, or is it just like you alluded to, just unfortunately not the day to perform, kind of just in general for you guys?
I think that while we're a really strategic team, we think out a lot of what we do. We're a very emotional team as well. We've got a lot of bigger personalities in our team. So anytime that somebody's kind of feeling off, they can drag the other people down, or they can elevate the other people, or anything like that just kind of happens. It happens a lot with us. Usually we're pretty good at controlling it. I think today we just let it slip a little bit. Yeah, I don't think it's any serious issue that we can't move past come next week. And, we'll be in the grand final anyway, so...
Big chat. But sorry, Wymo, I do have some bad news. You can go because CJ, shout outs for the winners, of course. We'll give it to you. Anyone that you and the Action X crew would like to shout out.
I guess we'll shout out the Fortress staff. Yeah, that they've treated us real nice.
JS's mum.
Yeah, JS's mum as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
JS's mum.
Shout out to JS,
We all love
gentlemen.
JS's mum.
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you the coming week.
Yeah.
The real MVP of the tournament. That's the interview everyone wants. We want to be able to get the words of wisdom from JS's mum and see what she makes of all of this going on. But look, folks, it was an interesting game. It was an interesting interview. But the Sentinels, I think we sort of knew weren't going to be that shook. Karath coming out of that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, they're standing at the top at the moment, and if anyone goes, they're cocky, they're arrogant, or things like that, you can point at the 3 trophies they've won, and then kind of go, they have earned the right. It is only when they falter at the finals, then you can probably go, that's funny, but you can just... yeah, like I said, I'm not too concerned. Actually, a loss probably now is better than later because it allows them a little bit more insight into what potentially can be picked apart, what they can refine on, what they can work on to make sure it's 4 trophies instead of 3 trophies.
And look, CJ, you have to admit, Cthulhu, still reasonably humble in victory, knowing full well that it sort of is what it is. The Sentinels didn't have a great day. The Action X crew did have a great day. And they've sort of just taken it in stride, looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, look, very much so. I think from here on out, this is going to be just more so about the fact that they just sort of nailing their comms, nailing their play, and just sort of just playing in for the enjoyment. This is definitely feeling like it's sort of the pressure is off them, which means that they now can almost just free play this just however they want.
Well, the pressure may be off of them, but I know a team that likely is feeling a bit of a pressure after that matchup. If Action X can take down the Sentinels, there's every shot that the Comets can take down the Scorpions. Coming back after the break, we'll see if it can happen.
There's no one actually really to help CJ out right now. I mean, yeah, you're going to get some shots in from tracks. One of them doesn't connect. It goes into the ground, and CJ is now dead. He's just a dead man. Could well be worth it. The issue is, though, that Napalmer in that Super Conk is designed to farm tanks on this cross, and there's one for him as he does set Iron Guard on fire. Aussie able to survive. It was Benny to drop, but at the end of the day, it's really not been much of a round here at all for Action X. Actually, it just looks like it's going to be the dump straight over the top. JT, he feels like he's got an angle here. Has taken a lot on the way in, but if they make this work, Scorpions, it is going to look like a bit of a masterstroke. JT almost certainly will go down. Fastberry trying to do his best to keep him safe, but this could end up being a 2-for-1 trade. Scorpions just pen their shots. Benny does go low. Aussie starting to eat a few shells from the cross as well, but Gloucester should be well and done, and the same can be said for Trax, so...
Yeah, Dong is nowhere near close. Iron Guard being completely chased off by Raspberry, but in comes the man of the hour, CJ. Got only 10 more seconds to just try to reset.
He
Dong
might not
just
get
needs
it.
to basically sit.
He hasn't
there.
got it.
Yeah, 8 more seconds. Wait, no. He might just be able to. He might just be able to pause.
Oh, he
no,
missed.
misses.
And they're going to try to find that overmatch, that 2-on-1. It's not really worked out very nicely there at all. JT just cops a huge chunk of damage. The trades actually do eventually work out for Scorpions, and now it's a question of can JT survive? This is catching Action X off guard pretty substantially. Dongalord is going to come in and try to trade out JT, but it looks like he's bounced or missed that initial shot, and now he is just getting farmed as well. So maybe there is a world where Raspberry and Aussie go down here, but by and large, Scorpions have already won this round.
As it stands here, look, unfortunately for Action X, this is just looking extremely grim.
2 shots left in the clip, down to a 1-shot. Nate Palmer did get the first shot across, so he should win this 1-on-1. Trax does go down. Big moment for the Scorpions as they now have the 5-on-3. Russian reasonably healthy. Gloucester, though, is just going to be sending it forward. Dongalord's down to a 1-shot. JT, can he slide that one through just to finish things off? Does look like that's going to be the case, and, well...
Russian right now on a very much of a borrowed time right now, because with CJ gunning for him, yeah, he is going to actually target him, but even then, the clip is not enough. Here, there's the finisher as well.
So really, this is a 2-on-3 for Whippet and Saxon, and Whippet's just going to decide that it's done and dusted, and actually he's getting farmed on the way out as well. So Comets have just come through with the goods. Perfectly timed push, and now they've got 1:46 minutes to kind of clean up the scrap, so to speak.
Oh,
If
Mary!
he gets that reset, could still survive the next 30 seconds. Safi won't have enough in the clip to kill him, but can he even get the reset from this range? From this angle with an IS-7, I'm not sure, especially now that there's tanks in front of Atherin. He has to hit Atherin. He's the one with all the cap points, and at the end of the day, Mary Turnip's just not in a position to do it, and even if he were, Safi's going to block the shot. It was a HE shell. Didn't pen. Comets have won on the attack of Sand River. And because of that, you're going to have to see Critical rotating off to try to deal with him. A little bit too slow maybe on the rotate in here from Comet. Safi! He's still alive! Can he get one more shot off? No. Okay, that's bad news for Comets. If he could have gotten a little bit more, that would have been nice. Because this round is not over just yet. If Comets is able to take down Critical and Whippet, we're back to a 3-on-3. Atherin and AVP are doing a great job of juggling the aggro.
Yeah, AVP needed to have sunken at least one more shot in there to be able to make it much more meaningful. But as Atherin trying to fall back, yeah, that is basically a GG. So, yeah, look, Matilda's actually managed to break the pacing really well.
Safi in this 50B is still on the reload, but he's actually got a big job to play here. If he can get another full clip out, that will be a dead Whippet in just a second. And in fact, he's going to have even more damage to do onto another tank after that fact as well. So this is looking phenomenal right now for the Comets. They still have not lost a tank. And Saxon might well go down before Dark Knight even does, and this could be a full clean wipe from the Comets if that's the case. Because AVP is almost certainly going to get the better of Mary Turner, but eventually, finally, Safi drops. 28 seconds required for the reset. Dark Knight and AVP, they're doing a good job of putting pressure onto Mary Turnip and Critical, which is going to allow PV Power to get in there for a good shot onto Kiwi Dynamite, but it's Saxon that they're looking for, really. He has a lot of that cap presence. It's now a 3-on-5, and slowly but surely they will walk away with the win. Here we go.
Putting themselves in the next position.
Here we don't go. I thought it was possible for a second. Safi was looking for it, definitely, but he's not going to get it in the end, though. That is going to be the win for the Comets. PP Power, he goes for the trick shot. I think Panthers are slowly edging themselves out of this round, and inevitably, once that extra tank comes in, maybe there's a world where Sentinels just push this one over the line. That said, First Blood does go the way of the Panthers, and, well, now it's kind of onto Wymo to start to clean up the scraps. God Mode survives on 45 HP, does have a damaged ammo rack, so not really going to be as effective with that extra gun in the game, but, I mean, Panthers are doing a great job of juggling the aggro right now, and Bales should come through with a full clip loaded. This could end up being really bad for the Sentinels.
Madhouse flipped.
Oh, really? I did not see
Oh
it.
no.
I wondered how Panthers had lost so many tanks so quickly because it was kind of looking like they were actually edging ahead, and then all of a sudden Sentinels get some quick kills. I didn't even notice in all of that Madhouse had flipped, and that would not be the first time. Well, no reset, so that's game over.
Scorpions. Yeah, that's GG.
Ignite out there from Rainbow onto Madhouse by the looks of things. JS has caught Cindy. It's a dead man. It's a matter of time before Return gets that finishing blow, but
Return, yes, he will be able to find the finishing shot, and there it is, lit up in green. Yeah, there we go. There's the finishing shot. But now in comes the actual push towards, players like Dell, players like Wymo.
I think starting to fall off this one a little bit. It was looking good for a moment when they had the tank advantage, but Return, as we said, was always going to get the better of Twit, and once he was able to do that, he's really opened himself up with a great firing angle.
Yeah, this is a complete, clean-up crew from Sentinels.
This is not good for the Panthers at all. Bales is just a dead man. I mean, look, he's not even going to get out of here alive, is he? Returned will try and chase him. It's going to go the way of Cindy, and that is the issue. That is the issue with making a push like this into the donut for the Panthers. It's if you're versing a decisive team, which is what Sentinels are, they are going to punish you for that. Everyone from Panthers is trying to make the cross, but the game's already lost. It's going to be a 3-0. Well, looks like Panthers are going to try and take a leaf out of the Sentinels book and just hold the W key, and actually not working out too badly, assuming they get rid of Wymo right here, right now.
Surely.
That job is going to go to who?
Twit.
JS goes straight past. Twit turns around to look at Dell. And Twit bounces the shot as well onto Wymo. It's a bit of miscommunication, a bit of poor execution on the behalf of Panthers. But Wymo absolutely should not be getting another shot off. Twit, I think, has fired another one. No, never mind.
No.
Where's Dell going?
Oh, Dell.
He's going to try and do his best Apple Wow impression there, I think. But in the end, Madhouse does find him. Well done, though, by the Panthers. And it looks like from here now they should secure their first round.
Greetings, recruits. Welcome to SWAT Academy. Here you will undergo extensive training for the elite Harrier squad. Remember, we expect nothing short of hard work, dedication, and persistence. If you want to prove your worth, you will need to display true fortitude, strength, and wit. And once you're ready, it's your mission to protect the world from the electromagnetic threat. Remember, the Alliance needs you. The evil Ermelinda Jung must be defeated. Commanders, this month's Prime Gaming Drop is all about high voltage and electricity. Claim the SWAT package to receive the unique E-Camo 2D style, 3 Go Harriers, and 3 battle-ready decals. The Dagger Medal, 1 day of World of Tanks premium account, and 5 missions for ×5 experience. In addition, you can choose 2 of 6 content items, including rental tanks, battle missions, and premium consumables. Get charged with a SWAT package. To get the package, click Claim Offer. Link your Amazon and World of Tanks accounts. And pick up your rewards in World of Tanks.
After our last operation, Max von Krieger disappeared. But his technologies have not gone anywhere.
Max fired.
Nice fire.
Good shit, boys. Good shit.
Sorry, I went too early. That was my bad.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's fine. We got the win.
That's what I want to see.
Don't hit me. I gotta get down. I gotta get down.
Get down.
I need help.
I can farm the CS as well. I can maybe kill the CS. Yeah, we need it. Everyone needs to get safe. Get safe.
Fuck, I missed.
Vizzy -1.
Cindy, get safe.
I got the kill.
Yes.
I'm trying to go south now. Rondi, move. I mean, not backwards, bro. Oh, for
That's
fuck,
fine. That's
bro.
fine. Probably deleted.
CJ, you liking these strats I made up just on the fly, dude?
You should do all our strats on the fly, dude.
Crack, you just need to do all your strats on the fucking shitter, dude.
Oh dear, look, there's only so much you can take away from that, of course. The porcelain throne, the giver of ideas. I mean, correct, look, you have to agree. Whatever the case may be, it worked.
I mean, my favorite ideas are literally the 11 o'clock showers where you go into the shower, then you have this revolutionary idea that you have to write down right now. Otherwise, you forget it forever. So I'm not really against that thought. Sometimes there is a reason why shower thoughts exist and why it's so powerful. But yeah, no, it's good to always get an insight into what the players think and say.
Maybe that's it. You know, you got your shower shorts. Wrath, what have you done to me, man? It's coming apart. You have your shower thoughts, and then there's the next step up, which is obviously CJ and his development of the strats for Action X. But let's forget about them. Let's forget about the nonsense. Let's turn our attention to the second match of the night, of course. It is going to be the South Sydney Scorpions taking on the Comets. And, I mean, Cthulhu, you come into this matchup, you've just watched the last one, and Action X have upset the Sentinels. Surely, with the recent results from the Comets, Scorpions have to have that weighing in the back of their mind.
Look, I wouldn't put it past that. It would be even just a slight thought about it all. You know, how things could really evolve, well, sort of in against their favor. But I mean, it's a team that, despite a couple of hiccups here and there, they still managing to actually keep themselves running pretty well. Matter of fact, even without Russian, players like Benny and Raspberry have been performing beyond at least my personal expectation.
Well, look, Karath, he's a bit of a character. He's a bit of an overall standout player for this team. Benny, not only has he been stepping up for the team, filling in that role, which was Russians until not too recently, but he also looks damn good. He's got the hair, he's got the look, he's got the charisma of it all. And that just adds that little bit extra to a team like this.
Oh, for sure. This is a team that's got a lot of ability. You've got obviously some big personalities as well. And honestly, it's a team pretty easy to follow and love. I mean, we always love talking a little bit bad about the South Sydney Scorpions. We always have pretty high expectations from them, as some of the casters have known, obviously, JT for a long, long time. I do enjoy this roster. This is a roster that has barely made any changes since inception. It has encouraged the team to work together as a team. And I must honestly say that the synergy of this team is almost unparalleled in the league. Everyone is enjoying having a good time. Everyone just goes, yeah, like we're here for the long haul. We love playing on Friday nights. We love scrims. We love going into the little Scorpions Discord and just having a good chat. They built themselves a good reputation from that, and I think it shows as well in their gameplay.
I'm absolutely fuming. I've gone and watched it. Benny's not even playing. This is in the bin. I think Comets are coming up with another upset. But I mean, Russian, look, he talked about it in that interview last week. He stepped back into this role. Look, Benny was there. He was putting up some big numbers, but Russian's come in. There's a reason he's as stacked as he is in terms of the fantasy. So, you know, him plus Aussie with two players that have been talked about to death by a certain no-name caster who's off doing other things in Melbourne this weekend. But their opponents, they've been kicking butt, taking names. Do you reckon they do have enough to take down the Scorpions tonight?
Honestly, I reckon they do. But again, this has been sort of the big talking point, at least for myself, is that if we get to see, you know, Comets in the full strength, full 5-man, yes, absolutely. They have the ability, they have you know, the synergy, it seems, to be able to dethrone quite a number of teams. And I mean, even with the way how Power played it all out, even when they were playing in those sort of in the 4v5, remembering the tragic week 2 for Comets, there were a couple of moments where they, you know, should they had an extra tank, absolutely, 110% they would have had the good opportunity here. Interestingly enough, here, well, I say interestingly, it is a relief to see Comets in full 5-stack though.
Not only that, look at Stife. He's powering up for the evening. He's getting his fuel ready to go. I mean, Karath, your carbo loading coming into a match like this, that's a lot of power behind what could be a standout performance. But very, very ambiguous roster. We don't get to see too much 3 players there, not running camera. But we do have our map picks. Prokhorovka for the Scorpions, the Siegfried line for the Comets, and obviously Ghost Town as that tiebreaker. I mean, this could get rather interesting.
In Siegfried line, that is actually a very bold statement from the comments. I'd like to actually see what is being brought in. I know Powell likes bringing a couple of fresh strategies in. He has a very refreshing look at the game. Safi being on this roster actually has been a huge boost. My question at the beginning of the season for the comments was how well Safi was going to integrate into the roster. He's a player with a lot of experience, that veteran status. Would some of these players in the comments listen? And if the answer was yes, we're starting to see that success, right? You listen to some of their comms check, it's really clean. I mean, Safi is that kind of guiding voice. Everyone's really on the same page, having a good time. So, there's a reason I pointed this as being a really good series. I think Prokhorovka is going to be a good test on their vision control. And then Siegfried Line is going to be a good test on how hard Scorpions can be pushed.
Well, obviously the real test going into this, a 90% win rate on the defense here in Proc. Can we lower the numbers?
Definitely, well, lower the numbers indeed. Quite curious to see how will Comets be able to respond to Scorp's play on Proc, given that Prokhorovka has been slowly but surely sort of coming into the play for Scorpions rather well.
I mean, you look what the comments are doing right now. Jeez, I
I'm
feel
looking
like
at what JT's doing.
I mean, I'm just like, they can overpeak over here, that's for sure, because they haven't spotted anything. They're not getting punished by it. So the problem is now, I feel like the comments actually need to just cut in immediately. This is the correct decision. They need to cut in. They need to cut in because the correct response for the Scorpions is to actually dump in. But because they're not dumping in, they're actually stuck in a crossfire. Now they're pushing forward, but now stuck in the middle ridge. It allows a lot of farm to go through, and Aussie is not part of the fight just yet.
He's not indeed part of the fight.
Okay, he is. Sorry, my bad.
Well, he is able to farm up quite a decent amount of damage. That is a lot of shots coming around. Dark Knight falls. All of a sudden, well, the 3-party that managed to cut in is all that is left, as unfortunate as it is. Scorpions look, whilst yes, they did get punished amongst it all, but yeah, this is very much still going sort of according to quote-unquote the plan.
Yeah, I mean, Scorpions, I think, almost like deliberately overpeaking during this brawl, where they initially get a couple of shots and they realize there's nothing here, just keep overpoking and punishing it. And as a result, they're able to get so much bleed off, they get the overmatch, and by the time the Comets actually forced into the position where they need to make a play, they can't do anything. So, pretty quick victory. I don't feel like we even saw a game, honestly. But, hey, this is sometimes Prokhorovka. Sometimes you just win in 2 minutes. What do you know?
Well, the quicker game.
Okay, JT. Alright, dude.
Yeah,
look, I had considered going to get myself a drink of water, maybe a bit of a snack, but I understand my error, my mistake in trying to make that call, because neither of these teams want that, obviously. They just want me to sit here and suffer. But we do see, again, sort of that little bit of a hitch that we continuously see the Comets getting into, Karath, which is confidence is good, but overconfidence is 9 times out of 10 they're undoing.
I don't think it's overconfidence in this case over here. Like, this is where Comets did the right thing. They need to pull up, like, a different strategy. But as, like, JT has seen a lot of different strategies in his time playing on Prokhorovka. It doesn't matter what game mode it is, whether it's 50 tanks or 5 tanks. He's looking at that lineup and going, there is a potential exploit we can take over here. They make the overmatch, they find it early, and the game's over from that point. The Comets tried something different. I don't mind that. But the problem is, as you can see, is if the Scorpions are able just to find, like, that point of weakness, they will relentlessly pick it apart with this A team. And JT, like, jeez, 100 pen rate.
100. He blocked 1800 damage as well. He got some decent mileage across the board. Wasn't the most. He was 3rd overall, though, which is... Actually, no, so second overall for his team. We'll forget the numbers for the comments, but I mean, clearly, maybe not necessarily over confidence, but aggression, which has been the namesake. Comments have been the ones to sort of push that envelope, get quite aggressive up in the face of their opponents, whereas Scorpions are quite, cool, calm, and collected team, as it were. And when they're playing with their A team, they're quite comfortable to just take things as they come.
Absolutely. Look, for Scorpions, I mean, Karath perfectly mentioned it before. It's the team that if not the only team that can really just talk about the fact that they have the whole synergy, they have the chemistry all figured out. They have been together for quite a long while. So here coming into this one, I think I think today is sort of a day for Scorpions to practice a little bit more rather audacious sort of plays and strats and peaks. But in the same vein, here I think for Comets, they are being tested as well, because whilst yes, Scorpions, we love to troll them saying, oh yeah, they bring out the similar sort of rush and aggro plays day in, day out, but this definitely has caught Comets off guard, and it definitely have rattled them.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I was just going to say, they have sort of been that more level-headed team in the competition. I think probably, just below the Sentinels in terms of that. Whereas, your comments to the young upstarts, you've really got nothing to lose other than potentially getting relegated again. So, potentially, could that be considered them testing the waters in this matchup, maybe?
I mean, I don't even think it's like testing the waters in that case over here. It's a full-blown statement of like the Scorpions just kind of going, we're just going to play our game. Like, you need to bring more than just that to even just upset us. Like, there wasn't any fundamental strategy for the Scorpions and their defense. It was just like a very default opening. Like, you got a couple of tanks at mid. We're going to peek to see where your tanks are. We're going to bleed these guys out. And I think Prokhorovka is an interesting one, right? And this is something that I always saw in Clan Wars a lot. On how you deploy your tanks in mid is a huge indication of what you're going to do. I'll go that into more detail later, of course, so...
Well, yeah, look, the Comets have a pretty tall task on their hands. They've dropped the first round. They need to start the reverse sweep.
Very much so. The reverse sweep would certainly need to happen right here, right now, because letting a 2-0 scoreline would be rather an upsetting one for Comets to go into their own map pick. But, I mean, Kev, it's been... This matchup felt a little bit more sort of... understandable, I guess, is probably the best way to really describe this, given that Sentinels versus AX has been definitely quite an interesting sort of mixed bag of surprises.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, instantly we're going to get action early on. This is what I mean by, like, well, you can't... Okay, so you cannot do these strategies, I feel like, against JT. It's like, it is almost as if he has done some of these strategies himself. He kind of knows what's going on. Like, sure, Russian and JT are bleeding a little bit of damage, but they're getting themselves into a position where at the very least they can contain a lot of this. And you can see it's that whole principle of you take some bleed now to get yourself into a defensively strong position to stop the Comets from being able to proceed any further. So, of course, the CS and the IS-7 are going to go and try to dig out this AMX at the back corner, but there is some crossfire support, and that is the dangerous part. This is down to Knight making sure he uses that super conk in that position really well.
Absolutely, with Aussie and Napalm now making the flank around through the middle, that overmatch towards Arthur and now forces him to actually start pushing towards Russian. So now it's the sort of the table has, or rather the cards have flipped over towards Russian. He now needs to stay alive for as long as possible, because with Power now getting rid of, one of the tanks, that's JT gone. Mendican now falls, Athron falls. Now Aussie has came in like a cavalry. And it's all sort of, once again, fell apart for Comets, it seems.
Yeah, Scorpions just have the protocols, and I really like that approach from the Comets, just getting fast in the face, trying to get into some aggro positions where they can set up some of these initial crossfires, but you can see that the Scorpions really understand on where they need to be to make sure they can support their teammates at all moments, understand where the priority targets are. Pretty unfortunate for the Comets as well. One of the tanks, I think Mendican actually in the I-7 gets set on fire there over to the south. A couple of bounce shots as well for the Comets means that it's a lot cleaner for the Scorpions. I think they still would have closed it out ultimately. They were in the positions to do so, but it just looks like an absolute wrecking ball right now from the Scorpions. As I said, you cannot beat teamwork and synergy sometimes. With just luck, you need to kind of... I think there's I was about to say there was some respect for the one-on-one. but there wasn't. It really wasn't.
Okay. We're just speedrunning Brock at the moment, it would seem. Again, it looked like there was the makings of something there for the Comets Wrath. And then I think you summed it up perfectly. Scorpions take a bit of damage, they get themselves set up, and they're completely happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to fundamentally understanding where the dangerous points are, where to crossfire, and you're versing one of the players that has, or one of the captains and callers in JT who has a lot of experience. It is not easy to beat him. It truly isn't. You look at the teams that can beat him on a consistent basis, like Sentinels. Wow, it's almost like Rainbow is considered a top caller in the region for a reason. And this is obviously no slight to Power and to the Comets and to all the guys that contributed strategies. All they can really do from there is kind of learn why it's falling apart. And in this case over here, it's very difficult to break that crossfire when there's a tank in the hold down position back there. It's a reason why it's such a strong position, and all the players in the Scorpions rotate around it accordingly.
And I mean, you look at the top of the leaderboard there for the Scorpions, they Pyro and Aussie in the IS7 and CS63 respectively. Cthulhu both cracking the 3K mark, getting well over the 80 fantasy points mark, as well as Aussie getting some real distance going on the map. But, I mean, again, you're looking at, most people would argue, the strongest Scorpions roster currently in this 5, going up against the Comets, who, look, they're middle of the pack for a reason. This is kind of how it was always meant to go.
Well, yes, but at the same time, there was like a slight sort of expectation that we could see something, unusual to come from Comets. I think this is sort of ended up being something that we almost got trained on for quite a prolonged while, where it's, well, yeah, Comets, they kind of expected to lose, but they also one of the few teams that sort of come around and say, oh yeah, well, look, we can identify the patterns, we can identify the plays. This is where we should be able to make our stat.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was the 4-4 for the Sentinels in our last game. Now we see the 4-5 for Scorpions. I mean, you'd have to imagine with a performance like this, Grad, that Scorpions probably the favourites to potentially, dethrone the Sentinels and sort of end that Raid of Terror.
I'll have to wait and see. I think it's still... They still historically, I mean, just looking obviously at that matchup, historically they still struggled in that one. There's still a lot to overcome for them over here. I think they're very much a team focused on the moment right now. They're not disrespecting the Comets. You can see they're pulling out like, this is a strategy we're going to execute. This is what we're going to do against the Comets. They're not worried about that final stuff until the very end. They look at every single opponent and prepare accordingly.
And Cthulhu, I mean, we've got a 2-0 start. The Scorpions well and truly reading the Comets and everything so far. Going into the Comets pick, I mean, how do you rate their chances? What do you reckon this one does go to the tiebreaker from what we've seen?
Look, I'll be honest, given that we did sort of get to conclude it all into the 2-0 and the first map, I will say that the chances for the actual tiebreaker are rather slim here, given that it's been a very sort of decisive 2 rounds. Scorpion seeming to be well and truly sort of in control here. Siegfried line may be a bit of a sort of a deal breaker in terms of just how new it is to the map pool, but apart from that, I think we had our question asked: have Scorpions found their way back up? This first map certainly answered that.
Well, so far the Scorpions have yet to lose here on Siegfried, but I think the main question is this about to be the Frankston line for the Comet?
Wait, what? Frankston line? Are we talking like, is that the same like line in Melbourne that we're talking about? Or is there something that I'm missing?
Believe it is, yes. Believe that.
That's fine. I've caught it before at like 11 o'clock at night. Nothing happened, so... Ooh. And obviously, catching it once is definitely a citation. Everyone needs to obviously do it once in their life. Look, going back into the game a little bit over here. Pretty usual opening, actually, from both sides. CS in the field, Bat Chat in the field, some mediums out in the field. Heavy's just containing right now. An aggressive posturing coming in from Knight early on. But this is a great hold on to, obviously, that terrain that is over there in the Foxtrot 6 position, Foxtrot 5 position. Allows you to get proxies. It allows you to kind of go up a little bit further to take a couple of fights, and you got some rubble to play with as well.
Yeah, it definitely is a good position. Usually provides quite a good stable sort of cover as well if you're playing for that high ground as well. So there's a bunch of really just good spots that you just don't really need to over aggress. I am eyeing out though this pick of T57 heavy for JT, which is yeah. Thanks as well to the production. It's a scenic train route in Melbourne, yes. But look, I respect the picks. It definitely is one of those tanks that can provide quite a lot of damage and a lot of punishment. It's just now, I think we finally are getting sort of the showcase of what happens when both teams are bringing in, the field scouts. Because up until today, Kev, if you remember, majority of it, one team brings out just a full-on heavy tank lineup to just staunch up the town, but end up playing around that sort of 5-6 line. And the other team brings in either the Batchat or the CS to actually play around the field, and they get free real estate around it. So I'm actually now curious because I can't really put a finger on it as to which team would actually come out successful here.
It comes down to the brawling. I'm wondering what this 50B's positioning is designed to do, and I wonder... Like, I'm trying to mentally calculate the view range right now. I don't have the circles on the radar to tell me how far I can see. But I'm wondering if this 50B has, like, a really interesting angle maybe into, like, the C2 position or something like that that allows them to get a couple of cheeky shots in or allows them to kind of do some damage. Obviously, the 277 doesn't have that tall silhouette as Stife is trying to dump underneath. It looks a bit dicey, but it's pretty hard to flip yourself over there. Obviously, now the Batchat's committing in, putting pressure onto Aussie at the same time, of course, that the cap pressure is going to begin.
This is going to be interesting as well, because now this very much depends on how well will Dark Knight be able to actually distract Aussie, because obviously the CS63 wouldn't be able to avoid, or rather completely ignore the Batchat's damage for as long as possible. Interesting enough to me, though, that Comets actually decided to fully opt into expanding onto that ramp, because usually we see teams try to play around that sort of ditch right at the ramp entrance, which is actually, it's not a bad idea, but they expose themselves far too much.
I was going to say it is not a great idea because it does allow the crossfires to begin, and the Scorpions, like I said, the rotations absolutely on point. The protocols, I always talk about protocols with a team like the Scorpions because that's the truth of it, is they're a team that are very good at knowing where to respond, where the threat is, and how to maximize their potential. And we're seeing it once again. They're not phased by the fact there's a Batchat over there in an STB1. They understand what's going on. They rotate around accordingly, and they just farm up an absolute storm from there.
Yeah, definitely so. Farm up is basically the best way to describe it all, how it all transpired, given that it's all down to Dark Knight, Power, and Stife, and, well, out of all of them, it's only Stife that is on the heavy tank, so at this point, yeah, look, third point is basically on the horizon, just wrap up everything and call it a day, really.
Yeah, I mean, Scorpion's obviously just going in now for the damage. JT is the focus point. So no one likes JT getting fantasy points. I would say for 80% of people, I would say that didn't pick him. So there you go. The Scorpions wrapping up the series 3-0 very convincingly off the back of very solid play. Not going to be upset about that one if you're a Scorpions fan.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, that was a showcase out of the Scorpions. They perfectly read Comets throughout the majority of the series. I mean, even the moments where it looked like they were a bit shaky, Karath, they were able to adjust on the fly, and I think you hit the nail on the head. JT, just gigabrain.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just, it's like JT and the rest of the crew. Like, they understand what they need to do. There is no, and this is like that's their philosophy they've played from the very beginning. No one is really like a 1-star or a 5-star. Like, no one is like the carry in their team. And it's reflected a lot actually across all the teams inside ANZPL. They just play their roles, and we see that so much in the Scorpions. It's like one game you have this person doing well, it's because he's in the position to do well. The next game, this person's in that position because they've been set up in that scenario, but they don't mind being the anchor if that is what is required to win. And we see here, aha, memes, right? Aussie 3-star, he's doing the top damage, and Russian 5-star doing nothing. But that's the whole point. They're playing the positions to win the game.
I do have to say, I do acknowledge it's quite ironic, Cthulhu, seeing as Aussie's the one dishing out the numbers, and Russian being the one to claim the kills, much like when we play together. But you look, jokes aside, it was just an outclass. That's the only way to describe what we witnessed today in this matchup.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With the way how Scorpions really play their game, it was a very sort of well coordinated, well calculated sort of approach. The way how they've held their plays. Look, yeah, it's not to also detract from the fact that Comets tried to do some rather unconventional strats, and that sort of ended up playing into the Scorpions' general sort of play style and play. But overall, yeah, look, it was just good coordination, good chemistry that ended up prevailing over just the innovation tonight.
And production not going to quite hit the same nail on the head as the Scorpions do, Karath. They go 1 for 1 in the night, just like everyone else.
Yeah, pretty much. Finally, Cthulhu gets one right, which is fantastic. I'm really proud of your success, Cthulhu.
Whoa.
As
I got the double digits as
the
well.
original winner of the Golden Bin Caster Award, nothing makes me happier to see the caster that sucks the most at predictions winning. As the guy that was the OG guy at losing. So, but yeah, I mean, kind of touching a little bit, obviously, on the Scorps and the comments over here. Look, I know it looks rough because it has almost been, it has been a clinic, as you said earlier, Blue Panda, a showcase from the Scorpions on how to play 5-on-5 tanks. I don't think the comments need to be disheartened by this. They tried a couple of different strategies. I like seeing that. That is exactly what you need to do to push your opposition, to kind of push yourselves in the better heights. And the wise person once said, you learn more from losses than you learn from wins. So,
well, I mean, 100%. You look at the sort of two approaches that we saw coming into it tonight, where, Scorpions, it was locking down, making sure you have the basics ready to go so that you're coming into the, playoffs and all the rest of it and beyond, you've got everything you need to, whereas, you'd have to agree, for Comets, it felt more like limit testing than anything.
For sure, absolutely.
Seems like limit testing is definitely here. Well, for Comets at least, they're getting back into the general swing of things.
Well, gentlemen, this one, not quite for all the marbles. Maybe we see Comets have a little bit of fun, try and get some morale back. But otherwise, it's fourth round to close it out.
All right, here we go.
Sure
Let's
is.
see what the Comets bring and what the Scorpions bring.
And at the lineup, nothing too big from the Scorpions. Neither is from the Comets. Okay, look, Comets are just looking to just sort of bring their own sort of play here. Try this sort of lineup and see how it sticks around the Scorpions, maybe.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you should do, actually, on the attacking side of Siegfried line, is Aussie doesn't, the IS-4 is going to go there. There's a reason why he jumps onto there. He's really good armor portfolio and profiles. And the reason why he can do this is because you look at the tank lineup and you're going, there's no medium tanks on the Comets. So, obviously, Power has to play that role, the IS-7 instead.
Look, I don't hate the decision of using the IS, but yeah, certainly something like a CS or a Batcha would have been a little bit more, there's a little bit more of a flexible sort of
Well,
pick.
you do have the HP, obviously, for the IS-7, right? Like, you have the HP. You actually have really good view range as well. In this thing, you got the hold down potential. If it became a 2-flag brawl, you would actually have the rotational ability still like a medium and whatnot. So, interesting to know, though, Comets obviously up by HP. They're doing some good bleed.
I'm liking actually the equipment setup here from Power's IS-7. So this was actually an intentional sort of play to go for, the flexibility and the ability to quickly rotate, the turbo, the grouses, and the hardening to sort of boost the HP. So everything's sort of alluding to the fact that it wasn't just one of those, oh crap, we didn't bring the actual, the medium tank. No, this was like an intentional sort of swap in.
All right, Aussie should be spotted pretty soon. As you can see, Arthrin does go down and get the spot out, but this is where the IS-7 is going to struggle a little bit because it has APCR. And nice shot there from Power. Good roll.
Nice.
The reason why I said that APCR struggles, remember, APCR has penetration drop-off at range. You're not firing from about 100 meters out, and you don't need to be concerned. You're firing from about 300 or 400 at that stage. Yeah, you're going to have to hope that your RNG is good.
fingers crossed and all of that. Definitely would be one of those things to keep an eye out for. Meanwhile, Russian and Stife trying to duke it out. A French AMX M4 versus a Germany 100. Look, I'd say, generally speaking, sort of, it's an even ground. Between
It's
the two tanks.
no, actually.
Well, in terms of just the armored troll profile, I'll call it that.
No, because the M4 struggles against the E100 so much, actually, now thinking about it. I realize, like, in a broadcast, because you think about it, right? Like,
okay,
how much pen do you have on the AMX? You have, like, what, 303?
Something across those lines, actually. Let me double, triple check that for you right about
The lower plate, when angled for the E100, just to name one weak spot that you would normally be aiming for, is about 310. You need about 310, 320 effective to go through it efficiently. I'll go over the stats afterwards, because here we go. The action's going to commence, and Stipe's going to be the pick over here, but Raspberry gets ignited, and he's going to lose a lot of HP for that peak. They have to commit in here, but Comets, they're up by 3,000, 2,000 HP. Really, really good chance for them to close it out. Even though Stipe's the pick, they've got Super Conks to back this up.
Yeah, this is actually still a pretty decent push to come around from the Scorpions, but yeah, the sheer abundance of HP though to come around from Comets should still allow quite a fair bit of leeway here. If Napalm falls or Night falls, this could be a good opportunity here. Stife just needs to stay alive for as long as he can, because, well, he is the one person holding off quite a fair bit of that pushing power. Dark Knight as well as PP Power starting to also join in on the battle. All of a sudden, well, Scorpion's been sort of turned away here.
Yeah, really, really well deflected from the comments. They don't get too phased by the pressure. I think Power just rotating in here is going to be that final cherry on the cake. Like I said, the comments definitely had some solid ideas and understandings about what they wanted to do on Siegfried line. It is good to see them being able to hold on. They're about 4,000 HP. They just want to close this out safely. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah, look, already, well, the first kill does come around towards Mendicant Bias. In terms of finding himself a finisher onto Napalm, and Knight is basically a ramming distance away from his grave as well. So Power is going to try to just hold off the onslaught of basically two tanks. Russian is basically about to fall through if Atherin or Stife will be able to really, well, finish him off, but it seems like they're struggling against the turret of the M454. Aussie, well, last man standing between himself and PP Power, and right now it's Power that is in the health deficit as well.
Yeah, Russian, I think, just needs to try to take down one of these tanks. This is going to help a little bit. The 50B is still out in play right now. Aussie, this is a good call from Mendicant just to be dumping in and just focusing down, obviously, the IS-4. Aussie has to divert his attentions over towards there, and the Ignite as well. 2 Ignites coming in tonight. The Comets, and obviously Raspberry on the attack the side 2 minutes. All you need to do for the Comets right now is just to stick together and stay alive. Raspberry couldn't find the timing. Doesn't have the HP to make that late game play. As a result, Comets will be able to make it at least one in this series, not a clean sweep.
Yeah, not at least, yeah. Not a 4-0 does certainly make things a whole lot nicer, at least the morale. And then plus, look, this sort of round was still really seriously played out by both teams. It's just the teams like, well, this time for Comets, for the past few rounds, they were looking for that win formula. It seems like at least here on Secret Line, at least on the defense, they somewhat found this sort of play, albeit that initial pressure seemed to have stemmed off the, well, an RNG-based sort of play by the IS-7 in the field. So take it as how you want it, but look, there's definitely still a few question marks that could be left unanswered, I'd say.
4 kills for Mendicant. So, look, if nothing else, gentlemen, the Comets bite back. Unfortunately, too little, too late. But for the fantasy numbers, if nothing else, they at least put something up. Grath, you got a feel for them. I mean, if they can pull out something like that, maybe, you know, different situations, maybe picking up a round earlier, this could have been a vastly different result.
It's hard to argue for that in my mind. I think the Comets, it's not me trying to disrespect the Comets. I view them very much as an upcoming team where they have the opportunity and ability to upset other teams, but the Scorpions have that capability like the Sentinels on Deeping Dig. The Scorpions, off the top of my head, are very... Outside of consistently losing maybe the Sentinels and maybe getting upset by the Panthers, they're very consistent at making sure they take the victories again, like for series that they're expected to win. And I think in this case over here, once again, we see that result. And that's not me disrespecting the comments once again. I felt like the defensive side, they understood what they needed to do. A lot better on the execution. You're seeing that I think the pen rates, maybe except for Arthur and over there, a little bit better. So overall, not a bad result for them tonight, I think. It was definitely a well-earned victory at the end, and it's like a good way for them to look back at this and go, there's a lot for us to work on, but at least we know what else we can still build up on.
Absolutely criminal. You look at it, Mendicant did the third lowest damage in that round, and he's got 75 fantasy
he's the
points.
cleanup crew.
Yeah, that's the one. He's got the broom, he's got the mop and bucket ready to go in the back. I mean, Cthulhu again. Yeah, I think we sort of talked about it. Much more a case of limit testing for the Comets and the Scorpions, just playing off what they know that they're capable of. It goes the way that we were sort of leaning. I mean, if you look at the numbers, this is the way it should have gone in the end. But, I mean, if the Comets, again, can take a round away from the Scorpions, chances are we could see them potentially even striking the top 3 position by the end of the season.
Oh, look, yeah, Comets definitely have the ability to sort of pull some big performances, some big numbers in for themselves. It's just, yeah, it seems like sometimes the innovation maybe gets a little bit too much of them rather than, just going for sort of the tried and true sort of approach in terms of the strats, in terms of just how they play, when they play at all. So it seems like for them, they are still sort of in that phase where they're looking to bring in sort of some sort of just surprise factor, whereas in reality, that sort of the time for the surprise factors seem to be just dwindling away bit by bit with every playday, it seems.
Yeah, I think to sum up what you sort of just said, just because you have a big brain doesn't mean you're super smart. Sometimes it's just cranial swelling and maybe you should go see a doctor.
Not sure if that's how the saying goes, but I do agree with Cthulhu for a little bit that they need to playmate a little bit standard, but I think that comes with time. You need to... It has to be a good balance between playing standard and playing like gambits, as well as a bit of and taking a couple of risks. Obviously, when you play risky, it's a double-edged sword. When it doesn't work out, it looks foolish and whatnot. But there's always intention behind the gameplay, which is why, like, when comments are doing something, I don't mind it, because it's like they clearly have a reason why they're doing it, and the win condition is maybe like a much smaller window in comparison to a team like the Scorpions or the Sentinels. Their windows to win is a lot larger because they have multiple win conditions and how to achieve it, whereas the Comets, it's refined down a little bit more. But when they get more experience, it opens up a lot more opportunities, the window goes further. Like I said, I'm not sure a top 3 is a realistic placing. I think sneaking into finals is going to be... Yeah, I think it's possible.
Well, we'll have to see. Right now, though, we're going to be joined by Ozzy to come and have a chat with us after that victory. Now, look, mate, you guys just absolutely locked it down tonight. You kind of came in and put Comets into your place. Was that sort of your intention coming into this evening?
Look, honestly, our intention was, we did a lot of thinking, right? And we thought Comets have beaten Matildas. We looked at it and we thought Matildas have beaten us. So we're obviously up against a seriously high caliber team, right? We're on the ropes, not looking good. But so we really, dug in, thought we're going to give it to them tonight. I think we really did that,
Look, we've been sort of talking about some of the other teams as well that you guys been really performing. Sort of the only one at least in the regular season so far that has been feeling like a bit of a bane of your existence, bar the infamous Matildas, will be the Sentinels. Seeing how they got outclassed today by Action X, does that put sort of the idea that maybe second half of this season, this is the time for you to bring back the dub for yourselves?
Oh, look, second half of season's looking pretty good, right? Like, we developed a bit of a mantra over the past few weeks,
Oh, yeah?
channeling our spirit towards the end of the battle. You might hear it in the battle replays, you might not. But I just put this mantra on my ear pods every night when I go to bed, and I take it to heart. I think we've got a really good chance against Sentinels next week.
There you go.
I'd make fun of the mantra part, but I unironically at one stage did the whole told the casters to do the whole you're poggers, you're not cringe in front of a mirror. So I don't think it should be coming from me in this case over here. A little bit more on the game. So obviously you guys have been together for a long time now. We always touch on the Scorpions' stability and whatnot. What do you guys now strategies are pretty locked down, right? You know what each other play like. What is scrim sessions? What do you guys now focus on in scrim sessions? Do you still try to revolutionize the game, or what's the go there?
Look, I mean, we're always trying to revolutionize the game. JT, he's always got the most, cracked strats in the works. He's cooking them up day and night. I think really in scrims, it's just a mix of, trying out some new stuff, reinforcing the basics, and going over that sort of thing. So that's pretty much what we're going to keep doing. Revolutionize where we can. Keep it rolling when we, don't need to.
Well, I mean, you guys definitely kept it rolling tonight, Ozzy. You guys looked very, very solid closing out the series. But I'll hand it over to you. Anyone you'd like to shout out before we let you head off?
I know Rainbow was a bit disappointed by the lack of JS's mum being shouted out last game. So you know what, JS's mother, you're a great person. I'm going to give you a shout out.
Well, look, congratulations, mate. We look forward to that matchup next week, of course.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
And I'm sure JS's mum will be looking forward to it as well. I mean, look, we're 2 for 2 now. What do you reckon? Surely, there's no way we don't get the shout out in match 3. So obviously, the fans, they love the players here, but the players, they also love the fans. But look, Karath, that matchup, it's going to be a decisive one. It really will sort of be that, litmus test going into playoffs, of course, between the Sentinels and the Scorpions.
Which one, sorry?
Next week.
Next week? Nah, the Scorpions will still lose against the Sentinels. I'm not coming back to cast again, so I can just throw as many bad hot takes out here. So you can write that one down. I think Sentinels, once again, congratulations to the North Sydney Sentinels for becoming the 4-time champion. Really well done. It's week 7. I've already called it.
Sorry, I just got to...
Just write it down.
Wash past not coming back. Okay.
Man removed from Ivory Tower says dumb stuff. More news at 9.
I don't know if you can be removed if you weren't allowed in the first place.
Oh,
But Cthulhu, I mean, the comments, innovation is great. But I mean, surely, again, it's only a matter of time before they do find that right combination. They do find the market. And I mean, Krath, you said, you don't rate their odds of cracking the top 3. They're 4th right now. They've only got 1 position to climb. Cthulhu, do you reckon that the Comets could potentially get one over on the Panthers?
Oh, comments over Panthers. Look, I still probably go towards Panthers purely for the fact that Panthers things been going, all things considered, in a very stable way. And on the side of just comments in general, I think they still have, I'd say, 1 more win in them, if not, say, 2 more. I think the rest relatively is expected for the teams to be able to overpower them, but I still reckon that there is some room for an upset.
And obviously, look, these young gunners, Karath, well, I say again, young gunners, the newcomers to the competition, the expectations weren't super duper high coming into it, but they find themselves in 4th already. They have that chance of, cracking on into the playoffs. I mean, from here on, it really has to be considered icing on the cake, whatever they get.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I still think there is an argument for them to be made to slide into the top 4. But I think, once again, they probably looked at the season as a developmental season. I looked at it for them as, all right, this is where you just practice getting your strats up to par. You make sure that everything is going well inside the team. You're integrating your players, and then see how you go. I don't think the goal coming into your first PL season is to ever win it. No offense. There's a lot of strong opposition. You just try to learn the systems and the protocols. So next season, you then can push for it.
Yeah, look, they show all the the markers of a team that could go quite far. They've showed that they have the ability to take rounds, if not series, away from some of the teams that were considered top 4 teams in this competition. I mean, coming into it, a lot of people would have said Comets guaranteed 6th place by the end of it. They're probably going to be facing what would have been relegations, of course, but Matilda's having fallen to that position, Action X having fallen a little bit, given how good they look today, there's possibilities, but I mean, who knows? Could they be the next Sentinels in the competition given enough time?
I'd say, yeah, given enough time, given enough prep, this is definitely where we could see a really good big improvement for Comets, and I definitely think that, say, give them one more, if not, say, maybe a season and a half, I think this is where they will start shining like a bright star.
Well, our next matchup after the break, of course, is going to be the Panthers taking on the Matildas to close out the night. And, well, if the Matildas are Comets fans, they'll be wanting to pick up that win and potentially knock the Panthers down a peg. But the Panthers, they're looking pretty strong at the moment. We'll have to find out whether or not they can be taken down at all. We'll see you guys soon after the break.
After our last operation, Max von Krieger disappeared. But his technologies have not gone anywhere. Now they are in the hands of his daughter, Ermelinda. And she's more dangerous than you may think. And we have not faced an attack of this scale in over 6 years. You must neutralize his daughter. You must stop this invasion.
From September 26th through October 10th, a familiar mode is back to World of Tanks. This is the Waffenträger Legacy. To participate in this epic event, you will have access to 3 familiar vehicles. The versatile Resistor. Activating the railgun ability on this fierce fighter will decrease the accuracy of your next shot, but deal a lot more damage. The sturdy Thunderbolt will enable you to switch to siege mode for decreased dynamics but far better damage per minute. And finally, we have the quick and auto-loading French Foudre. This tank is equipped with the ballistic dome that helps it avoid unnecessary damage. This time, 6 Harriers will be rolling into battle, each with an unlimited number of respawns, and the only penalty for losing your vehicle will be a longer respawn time. But don't get too comfortable and start losing your tanks left and right. Otherwise, you'll spend the battle on the waiting screen. Your opponent will be Ermelinda in the menacing Blitzträger Auf E110. You can't stop it, damage its modules, or set it on fire. Plus, Ermelinda has got plenty of scientific tricks up her sleeve. She can stun your tank with an EMP arrow, or create an EMP burst if you get too close. And when she does, not even cover will save you. To add fuel to the flames, the Blitzträger can teleport to any point on the map, evading your strikes or sneaking up from behind. To stop this menacing beast, you will need to overload the generators that power its shield. You can see the Sentinels' camps on the map. Clear these camps to collect plasma and deliver it to a generator. This will overload the generator and weaken her shield, but you will need to be quick. Plasma will start evaporating from the second you pick it up. Stay at speeds above 50 kilometers per hour to slow this process down. After the generator is overloaded, the Blitzträger will lose its ability to teleport, and its shield will be temporarily disabled. This is your time to strike at full damage. Overload all 4 generators to remove the shield for good. A progression will be available during the Waffenträger Legacy event. By completing it, you can earn decals, inscriptions, camouflages, Days of World of Tanks premium account, bonds, crew members with unique voiceovers, the keys to the Blitzträger, and most importantly, this.
They're still trying to destroy my father's legacy. They have no idea what I've got in store for them. I have the ultimate weapon. And not just one. Thousands of them!
This is your chance to rent the Waffenträger Auf E100. Complete the entire progression to rent this legendary tank destroyer for 5 random battles. On top of that, you'll also get starters to open the Harrier's gate. As well as starters for the Engineer's gate, or purchase some bundles with visual elements to get starters as a gift. The Engineer's Gate contains the rarest and most valuable rewards, including rental battles in the Waffenträger, 3D styles, and even premium vehicles. Don't like your reward from the Engineer's Gate? You can always use gold to re-roll for a new one. And if you don't get a tank after 49 gates, the 50th opening is guaranteed to drop a vehicle you don't already have. Perhaps one of these 2 new vehicles. The Tier 8 Soviet KV-4 KTTS tank destroyer. This vehicle boasts excellent penetration and strong frontal armor. Or the Tier 9 FV-4201 Chieftain Proto heavy tank. This versatile heavy has an excellent turret, good gun depression angles, and a handy gun. Get ready for valuable rewards. Brace yourselves, Commanders. The Waffenträger Legacy is already here.
The final Battle Pass season of the year will begin very soon. This is your last chance to earn more tokens and spend them on unique tanks. So, it's time to take what you rightfully earned. Season 9 is almost upon us.
I've got one more
I got
shot
kill.
for him.
I got kill.
Gonna dump me. Hit
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm covering you, JT. I'm covering you.
Can't do anything.
Waluigi.
Yeah, they can't do fucking anything.
Waluigi.
I still fucking can't pen.
I'm coming in.
Killer show.
Oh. We won the game. That's still bouncing.
Yeah, it's...
I'm serious.
Amarak.
Simping.
Oh man. He's poking you guys.
I don't know where this fucking CS went.
He's still there. He's still there. He's here. He's here.
I suppose, as the saying goes, the team that rides together thrives together, and it's all tied together in their mantra. The Scorpions. Look, it was alluded to in the interview. They obviously it brought them success tonight. So you got to imagine that there's something special behind it, of course, but. They're no longer our attention. Our next matchup, the Panthers taking on the Matildas. Cthulhu currently bottom of the table. The Matildas have had a really rough road, whereas the Panthers, I mean, look, their position has been reflected in the way they played. They're top 3 at the moment, sitting in 3rd. Madhouse has been doing Madhouse things throughout the season, but on the whole, they found some pretty significant success.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the introduction of Madhouse, the introduction of Bales, back into the roster certainly has seemed to have sort of sprung them back into the big contention. And I mean, Panthers last season, I'll be honest, I was still very much questioning sort of the consistency of some of the plays, some of the play days. This time, I'm more so leaning towards Panthers being still able to push that sort of 3rd place. And I mean, for all the good reasons, it's a roster that seemed to have solved whatever the coordination issues there was at this point. It is just mostly just them being either outsmarted or outpaced.
And look, let's talk about the man, Kev. Madhouse, the min-max of this team. He either goes absolutely huge, or he flips himself and unfortunately dies. He really has been sort of a make or break point for this team. And when he shows up in a big way.
Which is interesting, right? Because like when you look initially at this roster, I'm not saying Madhouse isn't a huge addition to the stacked one. Most people would have made an argument for Bales being that player. But that just shows kind of like the depth now of the Panthers. I feel like if they're able to figure out the roles just a little bit more, get more practice and synergy working, it just gets scary and scary when you think about it. With just so many star players on top of it. I feel like Madhouse right now performing well. It's a good sign. can't wait for Bales to have some monstrous performances and go from there.
And of course, their opponents, Cthulhu, the Melbourne Matildas coming into it. I mean, you got Crit, you've got Whippet, who are sitting in that top player leaderboard at the moment, despite unfortunate results for them. So it shows that the members of this team can show up, but unfortunately, it just hasn't come together enough for them to pick up much more than a win or two.
Yeah, look, for Matildas, I think they still sort of trying to aim for those top positions, at least sort of even partially in their dreams, at least up until the recent couple days, where I think sort of the approach of how Action X seem to have, at least from the spectators' point of view, is just to relax, sort of enjoy their time and sort of play for some just goofy strats or goofy plays here and there, and come up with the strats sort of on the go, as you can say. I definitely think that for Matildas, it's just more so about keeping it simple. It's literally going to be the winning formula for them.
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of find themselves in this situation where they kind of have absolutely nothing to lose. They can't get any lower on the leaderboard at the moment. They are sort of this caged animal backed into a corner, and that can be kind of deadly, especially in a competitive environment.
Oh, for sure. When you have nothing to lose, it's always going to be easy to kind of just go, like we can just take it one battle at a time. Like, they need to adopt the same approach as Action X. I don't think there's a world where they can sneak into playoffs. I mean, they'd have to win the next couple. It'd still be difficult, but I think now they just focus on kind of just enjoying it, enjoying the rest of the ride, enjoying the rest of the season, and kind of going from there.
Well, we'll have to see just how that season plays out, or, whether or not they can even get that much closer. Honestly, I think Cthulhu, the win for Matildas at this stage would be escaping bottom of the leaderboard.
Basically, yeah. Look, escaping relegation, keeping themselves sort of in the running for the general sort of season of ANZPL is going to be the sort of the ideal play. But I mean, you look at the way how things been going really for them, and it certainly has been sort of one of those things where, well, they even trying to have a punch down with teams like Comets or even AX, and even then they sort of falter through.
And our standout player that we're keeping an eye on tonight for the Perth Panthers is Twit. He's put up some big numbers so far this season, Karath. And on the whole, I mean, he's hitting most of his shots. He's dealing some big damage across the board. I mean, averaging 500 a minute is not the biggest of numbers, but it's consistent, if nothing else.
I mean, you got to look at the whole of the game, right? Because you might be spending 2 or 3 minutes driving, and that's kind of like where the damage per minute kind of stat comes in. Because it could be 3 or 4 minutes where nothing's happening, and then a brawl happens for 1 minute, and there's still the calculation there. So, yeah, Twitter's always been like that reliable player for the Panthers. Make sure that he's in the brawl, he's hitting the shots when it's needed. He's also like one of the characters you need in a team where he doesn't take anything too seriously. I mean by that he's chill. He's cool. He's hip.
And then, of course, you got Crit on the other side. I thought he's, not had the same success in terms of win rate, but there's a reason he finds himself so high up the play leaderboard at the moment. He's right up there alongside Whippet, putting up some numbers. But, look, I mean, they've got all the pieces to the puzzle. Unfortunately, they just don't seem to be quite able to assemble it.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that sort of odd sort of picture where, I mean, you look at even Crit's sort of stats, 82% accuracy, 76 pen rate. It's all looking, very, very good, very promising. It's more so that maybe it's just, all the players just wanting to play for sort of their own play, their own game, where instead of maybe listening to the comms, or maybe it's a completely polar opposite. The comms have been listened to. It's just been a tale more so of just horrible timings.
Maybe that's the thing, Krath. Maybe the Matildas just need their own mantra.
I don't think that was even a mantra. Like, that just sounded like a scream of pain. And, I don't know. I think it's just the Matildas. I made this comment all the way back in week 2 or week 3. They just needed to find something a bit more deep inside of their strat book, outside of kind of grouping up and sending it. And we're still seeing, I think, the grouping 5 up and sending it. It just doesn't work when teams are expecting it and readying up for it. going back to my original point, you need to be able to throw gambits in. You need to be able to kind of figure some other strategies out to make sure you keep it exciting, especially in Tundra and Muravanka. So,
I mean, it's kind of their mascot. You know, ducks of a feather tend to flock together. And yeah, we do kick things off with Tundra. That's the Panthers pick. Then Muravanka going to be the Matildas pick. And then obviously Ghost Town, Cthulhu. We've seen a bit of Tundra tonight. We haven't seen as much Muravanka. Is that the deep pocket that Matildas need to potentially pick themselves up a win here this week?
I think it might be, you know, given that Muravanka has been sort of one of those attempted picks for Matildas for quite a while. They've tried to do it back in last season. Things kind of half worked out. They going into this one, it's a fully reworked now Muravanka, or at least one of the sides that has been reworked, and it does allow a whole lot more flexibility. So going into this one, I'm feeling like we could see finally that breakthrough game from Matildas.
Are you feeling as confident, Karath, with Production's pick back in you?
Wait, well, I never chose Production's pick. What do you mean? I'm not part of Production.
You're the front man in Production. You're the
No, I'm the front man of Wargaming. I don't.
Oh, yeah, sorry, true, yeah.
Yeah.
Wargaming.
I like to back the boys in Production, but I'm not taking responsibility for throwing the dice to the wind. So,
well, throwing it to the wind is probably not the strategy that Matilda should be going for. Kicking things off straight to Tundra.
Yeah, to see how will Tundra really work out. This is, you know, the same map where Madhouse was fancying himself a little bit of the T100 LT goodness. So, I mean, miracles could happen here, I reckon. Kev.
Look, you can believe in miracles. I'll just destroy you with my facts and logic and just go, I don't think there's going to be a miracle over here. There needs to be some solid, fundamental play coming out from the Ducks. They'll need to be able to make sure they get the correct rotational timing. Their brawl needs to be clean, and they need to find that the Panthers get caught off guard.
Oh no, look, Kev, I didn't mean the miracle towards the Ducks. No. I was meaning we see, you know, Madhouse, he's playing close by to one of the, you know, one of the edges to a bridge or to just one of those ledges where he could fall off from. I'm more so talking about these sort of miracles. I never said that they were the good miracles. Regardless of that, though. Regardless of the means, I mean, this is quite a proactive setup we're seeing from both Panthers. Well, more so Panthers, I'd say, rather than Matildas, because Matildas sort of taken up the very sort of almost similar setup as one would have expected from, you know, the setup on the attack. Although the only thing that feels rather unusual is that it's the STB doing the scouting rather than sitting up on the hill. But given that there's no other medium tank, well, who else would do it?
I have to say that the Matildas lineup is very, very slow. I mean that because, like, you look at the AMXs, you look at Super Conquerors.
Not a whole lot of flexibility, yeah.
No, like, you have to... Either you need to be rotating by the 4-minute mark if you need to go and get something done, or you have to kind of commit in early and expect a lot of bleed when you're crossing open territory. Oftentimes, when you see north side play from an attacking side on Tundra, you need a couple of 277s, VZs, they've got the speed in picking up that position at A3. Obviously, some blind shots coming through. One has connected onto the AMX and JS. JS needs to stay there to keep an eye on to make sure there is no north push. He's risking it a little bit, as I'm seeing a couple of shots coming his way. So, he's hoping he doesn't get blinded again.
Yeah. Things will go a little bit less of a punishable way for him. The way how actually Whippet's looking to make a play here.
It looks like he's selling a fake.
Yeah. Looks like one.
Genuinely, because he's the only tank that's over there. They're going to reveal a Super Conqueror at the same time up there at D6. It looks like they're posturing, obviously, for a North take, because you're going like, there's a Super Conqueror over there. There's another tank over here that's doing some damage. I got 2 tanks over here. Maybe we should start rotating a couple, 4 minutes, 50 seconds.
What are you saying? Is Matildas are trying to pull what Sentinels did back on Tundra. Just try to bait in the other team into doing that sort of, you know, that over push, that rotation, and then make that play off the back of that. Which look, I wouldn't be opposed to that, really.
I mean, that spot out from the STB is pretty big because it allows the Matildas to kind of see, all right, that's the VZ leaving. So big rotation coming out. The Matildas have done a fantastic job at selling, obviously, this whole rotate. And this is what I mean by the problem of Tundra. They're taking at least another minute to rotate these tanks. And these Super Conquerors, well, they still have to cross out through the open. It's very risky. They need to cut across. They can't make the safe rotation, which is normally going all the way around towards that K line. So there's a potential Madhouse might be able to spot this out if he's far enough, but they're just exchanging positions. Obviously, Dark has the HP to get himself onto the hill to kind of get shots over bridge. He's got the DPM to make it work, and you can see Madhouse. He's covering off this approach. He knows what's about to happen, and he should be able to get at least one shot in, unless there's a bit of foliage in the way.
Yeah, not enough view range, and the foliage in the way does certainly make things a whole lot more difficult for him to spot. But the hunch is certainly there, and then now that they didn't really get to see any sort of further advancement on the aggression on the north side, now it's the time for the push. Whippet already taking quite a fair bit of damage, which makes well, it double confirm now that the cap pressure is starting to come around.
I think it's fine though. You're always gonna bleed a bit of damage coming into this cap. You've mitigated it the best way possible. However, the Panthers actually doing a bit of Matilda's roleplay this time and grouping up 4 tanks together. And I think this is where Goober probably needs to separate into the village. There is going to be a huge overdump over here. There's no rotations being spotted. And Matilda's, well, let's see how the brawl's going to go, because this is all coming down to the focus fire and the shots from here.
Very much so. Already in comes the push. Bale's actually deciding to go in for a bit of a wider swing this time. So the 2 AMX is going for the swing around. Twit trying to follow suit, but a lot of damage actually being sunken into one of the M4's 54s. Madhouse and Twit trying to be the front runners here, but as it stands, actually the pressure off the cap has actually came around. Now it's the rotation towards the village where Goober is going to be sitting around, and he might get a bit of a nasty surprise if Whippet and Saxon decided to actually push him through the village, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
I think Goober needs to be cautious. He's the isolated target at the moment, and if Saxon and Dark go into this target, I think Dark is calling for Saxon. Get a shot into Goober over here. He can take the one-on-one. It's really important right now. Goober tries to stay alive as long as possible. There's no way for the Panthers to actually cover this off. Goober's going to be the pick here.
Yeah, indeed. Goober getting pushed here, getting thoroughly, well, pressured. Certainly not looking to be the one to stay around for far too long, as Dark continuously applies even more and more pressure here. As it stands, Crit and Kiwi Dynamite actually managed to put in quite a fair bit of damage as well towards the Panthers, denting them even further now that Goober is off the plate. Now it's, well, you're starting to see the clamps sort of starting to tighten around the Panthers' necks.
Yep, now the Super Conquerors, because they have the HP, they can push in, and Dark is preoccupying one of these VZs at the moment. Twit can't really push out because he needs to hold his clip, and that's really well played from Twit, obviously making sure he takes down Saxon. However, now he's on reloaded, and allows Dark to actually come in and get some shots into his ex-teammate in Madhouse. Whippet will follow up with a shot from behind as well to make it a very easy pick ultimately for the Matildas over there towards the valley. Meanwhile, down there at the south, JS needs to take a couple of hits, but the Matildas striking back hard, able to do a lot of damage so far. Really well played from them.
Yeah, this has been really great so far, all things considered, but I mean, we say that there's still 2.7 HP to be disposed of with 40 seconds remaining. Matildas are the ones to push up here, with Dark already scoring himself the 3k damage. JS about to be felled here. This could be rather quickly disposed of, but each and every shot needs to count here.
Yeah, 20 seconds. I don't think JS can survive for long enough, though. Needed an exceptional roll and some bad RNG going in Critical's favor, but there's no bad RNG over here for the Matildas. They take a very good attacking win on Tundra.
I mean, what is going on, guys? This is. I mean, you Matildas, you're bottom of the leaderboard versus the Panthers, who are third currently. I mean, Kazulu, is this again that sort of coin toss Matildas that sometimes can show up and upset?
Look, I gotta say, for Matildas, this is a very good time. I mean, we've talked about even the players like Dark, who in my opinion, has been that sort of the rising star for Matildas. Yes, we have the the duo of Crit and Whippet that are performing exceptionally well on the fantasy ratings, but to me, Dark has been that big player, that big element of change for Matildas to actually be that sort of his own unit within the team, but still be able to dedicate a lot of progress towards the possible success of the roster.
I mean, let's talk about the pivot point here, Karath. Goober out on his own. Matildas identify that. They make the call. They pivot over, deal with him. And then it just starts to fall apart from there for the Panthers. And, I mean, that's you look at the damage alone. 4.4k for Crit. That's just insane.
I mean, you'd expect that from some of the top players over here for the Matildas, especially your players like Crit and Dark. You're expecting them to make the most of their positions to punish and bleed, and really, this was much better from the Matildas. Normally, when you see a position like that, when you look back to maybe a week 4, week 5 Matildas, they would have just sent it with 5 tanks, tried taking a fight. This time, though, they understood what they needed to do. Okay, let's get the AMXs across. Let's sell some map vision. Let's take a brawl. Let's make sure we stack the deck in our favors, and then commit it together to make sure that we complete everything. So this is much more solid, and this is much more convincing for me for the Matildas, and this is where the Panthers need to dig in a lot more. And they need to go, all right, this is actually a scary opponent now. If the Matildas can balance this play between selling out fakes and then also go for the jugular as a 5-man, it makes them so much more lethal as a threat.
Honestly, I think at this stage, I mean, I unfortunately don't have much experience with the Ducks, but maybe it's almost worth a bit of a name change after a round like that. The Melbourne Magpies, because they were swooping at the Panthers something awful.
Absolutely. Look, this sort of decisiveness certainly is sort of a burst of the positivity to come around from what has been a rather grim timeline for Matildas, the way how things been really going for them. The bottom of the leaderboard, I mean, you name it all, problems galore been sort of mounting for them. So this is a breath of fresh air, to name it, out of the list of things that has been going good during that round for Matildas.
Let me touch on it there, Karath. Earlier in the season, it would have been a different Matildas. They would have just full sent it with the full 5 tanks. The question obviously has to be, is this sustainable for them? Can they keep up this style of play and start matching some of those top teams in the competition?
Absolutely. Like, that's why it was so surprising to me. At the beginning of the season, I thought the Matildas were in for a really good shot at making playoffs. So you look at the pedigree on this roster, you look at the caliber of the players they have, they had every single chance to kind of make it into the playoffs. The fact that languishing at 6, I think, was definitely down to, like, maybe getting stuck a little bit on some old strategies of the past, looking a bit at their success from Season 3, and they need to go back to the drawing board. There's never a bigger shock when realizing, hang on, the strats aren't working. You're sitting at 6. You need to start looking at how to revitalize your gameplay. And as you said, let's see if it's sustainable or not.
That's the one, Matildas. They need to keep the momentum rolling. Can they do it here?
Could certainly do it. I mean, with quite a banger of a start on the attack, which usually has been, the struggling point for Matildas previously. I'm looking forward to seeing what could they do.
What is this stack from the Matildas? What?
I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, minus the 50B, it nearly mirrors what Panthers are bringing in. It's just Panthers are looking to just more so lean into an extra S-Conk here.
It's so dangerous, though, because, I mean, it's relying on the fact that you've got 4 guns against 2 for a very brief window, and it might just work, because why would anyone set up tanks here? Matilda's setting up a trap, and I think the Panthers are going to fall for it.
They do have, though, the extra sort of damage buff of the Mino to be able to dish out a little bit more of extra punishment, but with the 50B already basically on a low start, this could be rather dangerous, but my problem being is that the Minotauro of Dark is very much far and away.
I mean, he's going to take a hell of a long time to rotate. Here we go. The tanks have been spotted out. Critical. Nice little shot onto Bales. And now the shots need to connect from the 50B. They need to connect from Saxon to make sure that this incursion in from Critical and Kiwi Dynamite is not punished. And Oh my goodness, JS is getting absolutely deleted, but now in comes the overmatch, and this is the problem I was talking about.
Yeah, this is where the issues are certainly going to be. The fact that Crit and Kiwi Dynamite actually falling back right behind the rock produces a great cover position for the Panthers to really play around. Yeah, with Kiwi Dynamite falling, Crit is next on a chopping block. Things are definitely looking very, very problematic and dire, all things considered.
Yeah, Crit might be able to get off one more shot just to try to help out his team. Eventually, he is going to go down. Brings it to a 3 and 4. HP relatively equal, which means that the guns need to be really important. And the problem is one of them is the autoloader, of course. Now the Panthers are going to be diving in on each isolated target. Dark has 3 shots left in the clip. He's still trying to come into the position right now, but there's just too much HP between the members of the Panthers. Saxon will eventually go down. He's just trying to stay alive as long as possible and sell his life, but it's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, with him falling, yeah, this sort of overmatch ended up playing out a little bit all too good, really, with all things considered. Dark only having one more shot after firing this one. Basically will be forced to, well, basically try to be that punching bag. Whereas it's down to Whippet to try to do anything else, but even then, the autoloader sort of betraying the situation there.
I definitely think with the Minotauro over there stuck at North, you needed a tank to anchor there. The question is whether or not a Minotauro was a good decision or not, given its rotation speed. Definitely a bold strategy coming over there at the South, but just not enough HP being bled out meant that ultimately they had too many tanks still in the fight. They needed to delete a tank immediately on the incursion in. The fact that they didn't meant the overmatch works in the favor of the Panthers, and we're 1-1 apiece.
Well, they answer back with a bit of a vengeance there, Kisulu. The Panthers not quite landing in the trap that the Matildas were hoping to set there. They sort of matched firepower with firepower, and well, they brought one extra barrel to the gunfight. And it definitely worked.
Yeah, look, I think the initial sort of theory of Matilda's expecting, if it was sort of a 2-on-2 sort of matchup, then yeah, absolutely. This would have actually worked out into the favor of Matilda's rather well. Fortunately, yeah, it was basically the whole squad that just rolled up there. So quite an unfortunate, quite a frustrating almost sort of outcome for them. But on the side of Panthers, look, they sort of initially intended to play for that sort of very sort of rush-like game. Finally, on the actual attack, it worked out pretty well. Minus
I mean, yeah, you can kind of almost see it in the numbers there, Karath. It goes to show just who was up there getting involved in the thick of things. I mean, unfortunately, Kiwi Dynamite didn't really have much of a chance to do anything. He just got overwhelmed. They just couldn't quite handle this heavy push from the Panthers.
Yeah, this is where you're looking at the pen rates and you're going, look, I don't think the pen rate would have changed anything, but you look at it and you go, this is why the AMX sometimes struggles, given that the lack of premium penetration on the premium round. You look at why the Minotauro struggles, it is because it is a very easy pick from the side. If it over angles a little bit, it pretty much is a free shot coming into it. And the gun handling, what gun handling? Pretty much. Like you saw Dark aiming for a good couple of moments, I think, on Bales earlier on in the village, and the shot just goes into the dirt. So, yeah, I don't know. I just remember, like, I rag on the Minotauro a lot because I remember when the players first saw it, they were saying this thing was going to change the meta and revolutionize the game, and I still haven't seen it.
Well,
yeah, I still haven't seen it. Like, tell me when there's been a Minotauro huge game where it's like, yeah, the game was won because of the Minotauro. I can say that to the old Crime Fight, but not this.
I'm thinking, because it was, I think it was my first week actually. I'm pretty sure we got to see Dark on a bit of a showcase with the Minotauro. It was a while ago now, but not to be this time around. He couldn't quite put it to use in the same way that he was hoping. And Panthers, they equalise going into Met 2, though. I mean, do you reckon the Matildas can at least push for a chance at that tiebreaker?
I reckon we could still see the tiebreaker. This is one of those matches where 1-1 is not sort of the end of all things and end of all problems. But I think it is valid to sort of realize that, yes, Panthers were able to sort of approach this map really, really well. The only issue here from here on out is Panthers already done this 2 times. What stops them from pulling the sort of rush-like sort of 5-stack push for the 3rd time now in Moravanka out of all the things?
I mean, that is the question. What is there to stop them, Karath? The Matildas, they've played their trump card. They won in the first round. They did try something against the Panthers, but the Panthers also then tried something that just worked better. Going into, map 2, do you reckon they do have something in the back pocket that could net them at least another round?
Yeah, 100%. Muravanka after the map changes, I think definitely favors the attacking side a little bit more, makes it a little bit more equal. And I don't mind that. It opens up a lot more attention over here. You can't just control a quarter of the map now. You need to expand a little bit more. Keen for it. Really, really keen.
Well, I think Matilda's main focal point of expansion is going to be their score count in this series. Gentlemen, take it away.
Muravanka still feels a little bit of an unexplored territory, whereas like something like Siegfried Line already started finding its own sort of, I hate saying meta, but sort of its own pacing is probably the better way to sort of describe this. Muro still feels like there's a lot of ways to play it.
I feel like the North Brawl has obviously been... They're still trying to figure out the North Brawl aspect a lot of the time. So, Twit crossing out in the open. Yeah. Oh, very, very lucky. The I7 gun is absolute trash sometimes. All the shots missing. Goobot able to just help with a single shot in the side. Dark going to be controlling the village over there in the north, though. And obviously, Whippet in the Amex down there is going to have a little bit of a duel with JS. However, there is a bat chat that's helping out JS a little bit.
Yeah, JS right now is actually in a relatively decent position where he can just keep on sort of chipping away at Whippet and even go for a couple of the trade shots sort of in a very confident manner as long as he's able to pen. Now, this sort of loss in that trade definitely does pose things a whole lot more problematic point, but with 20 seconds remaining, the reset needs to come around. The only closest person right now there is Twit and Goober. Goober could go for just to tank up the damage, but it seems like Twit, second time in a row, by the way, on Muravanka itself, will have to go for the reset, and this time he, might just end up getting overpunished.
I mean, this is good shots coming in from Critical, from the guys that are juggling this cap aggro. This is the correct fight that they need to take. They isolate one of the tanks. They know Whippet's going to go down. This is... I don't think they should push in just yet. I think they need to still play around the cap a little bit longer and force the Panthers into making a bad decision. Obviously, Whippet, he was fighting a 1v2, and now you have to hope that this 3 versus 3 push, they can pick off Twit, then they can pick off the next tank. But Crit... Oh, Twit might be able to get the killing shot. Chris trying to block. It's Madhouse that gets a killing blow.
Madhouse is the one to find the finisher. Is a good opportunity here, but unfortunately with him, he's the only one remaining against the 2 IS7s. Yes, against the one-on-one between the S-Conk and the IS7, it's the S-Conk all the way, being able to find the pen shots, but it's the unfortunate fact that 2 of those tanks does not make things a whole lot easier in any shape or form. Unfortunately, too much hurrying up on the shots as well. Double tap is going to be basically enough, and there he goes.
Yeah, great killing blow from Kiwi Dynamite. Just trying to help out Crit over there. Obviously, JS then has to take the shot. The long rotation coming in from Bales, who's a single HP away from death right now. Crit trying to find the angle, but he's just going to wait for Saxon. Oh, actually, he just takes a good peek. Saxon just giving Crit a bit of a love tap. Bales needs to get into position. JS just trying to stay alive for as long as possible. And maybe, just maybe, JS can escape, but he can't. And it's all down to Bales. 45 seconds to get a reset shot. He's a single shot to both of these IS7s. How well can he play it?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't yet got it, so he has the element of surprise to him to play around. But at the moment, the positioning of both Crit and Saxon does not instill a whole lot of faith into the openings that could be procured here. Any other position in the old Muravanka, yes, absolutely, he would have been able to do it. But actually, Crit just got lit up. If Bales would have used the bushes that he just passed right before the housings, might have been able to find a few cheeky shots, but as it stands, this is the ultimate one, the chance to do it all, to change it all.
No.
Oh no, that's tragic. Oh, that's tragic. No, poor Bales.
Wow, Crit's phased into the 2nd or 50th dimension with that kill. What a game from him, though.
The Uno reverse card, but I mean... I think it was that question that I posed to you, Kev. You know, do Matildas have something in the pocket that might net them another round? They go for the gambit play. They force the Panthers into a position where the Panthers needed to make a move, and it worked.
I think that was a really good play from Whippet. Really, really unselfish play. And this is what I meant by the evolution that they had. They're sacrificing one tank to ensure the success of the rest of the team. You saw, like, it eventually the two... There's a lot to talk about. But that was really, really well done. I have not seen Mura being played like that from the attacking side just yet. That seems like it's probably going to be the go-to from future weeks.
And Cthulhu, would you look at that? Crit, 3.7k damage, 2 kills, fantasy points racking up. They do get themselves their second round. I mean, look, minimum, worst case scenario for the Matildas, they guarantee that tiebreaker, but they have a chance at taking a victory over the third place team if they win this next round.
Absolutely so. I mean, Moravanka has been one of those maps that it has been sort of Matilda's been attempting to favor quite a fair few times. It was between that and the Siegfried line. And I mean, the Siegfried line, it definitely has been a struggle streak for Matildas, whereas Moravanka, it definitely feels like they are now in that sort of very comfortable element. Now they seeming to be able to get a really good hang of it, and as both of you highlighted, yeah, that sort of the evolution of Matilda starting to come to fruition finally, and it's a good time for that to actually happen, because it finally shows that it's not just, we don't have to get that completely bland with our predictions. It's always sort of all those changes are up on the table. It's every time, there's always a possibility for Matildas to shine. There's always a possibility for Action X to shine. If, though, starting from next week, then Matildas and Action X will be able to perform, this is where I think for a number of people, the faith will be restored.
And, Kareth, you seem to be a bit of a whiz with the numbers at the moment. If Matilda win this next round, what does that mean for the predictions again?
Means that there's someone getting ever so close to winning not just the Golden Bin Award, but you've lost a production award, which, as far as I'm aware, across multiple shows, should never happen. I don't know if I'd ever recruit a talent that would do something like that. But yeah.
Cthulhu, are you a little concerned right now that you could find yourself bottom of the predictions table?
Not at all.
If the Matildas win this next round, not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Look, for one, I'll gladly accept 2 rewards instead of 1. A reward is still a reward in my eyes. 2, look, it's good to see that we are being proven wrong, that it's not just the top 3 teams that would be able to dominate the predictions and the leaderboards through and through. So it's all the ground to the wildcard upsets.
Yeah, I mean, look, Matildas, it has been a reasonably well contested matchup so far. It's not like it's been a complete blowout one way or the other. They've showed innovation and hasn't necessarily worked, but they've showed that they are thinking that couple of extra steps ahead, trying to go a bit deeper in the strat book, as you put it, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. They're starting to get that complexity up there. I knew this is a team that has the capability of actually finding out what strats work for their more aggressive play styles and what doesn't. All that came down to the execution. And now, we are 1 map away from maybe the Ducks actually pulling a huge upset, or can the Panthers make it into the tiebreaker?
And that's the question. Cthulhu, could the Panthers take an L tonight?
Look, it seems like that might just be the case. For what it's worth, look, I think I figured it out as well, the general formula for myself. It's whoever I predict on the fantasy, whichever teams get the most, picks, are the ones that take in the L. Because, I mean, I went today with the predictions of 2 of the Sentinels and 2 of the... Actually, no, pardon me, only 1 of the Panthers players, but I didn't include AX1. I look into predicting just Critical. It seems like, well, it's his team that actually comes out with the success, so it's more so go for the budget picks, I guess.
Oh, here we go. 5-man brawl. That's just going straight onto the cap. Good focus fire into Bales as well as Saxon. Means that the Panthers are going to go up 1 tank nice and early. They need to start committing some forces in. They need to be able to protect Dark. Bales needs to be the pick over here. And Dark actually relatively safe right now. And oh my god, an Ignite as well coming out. This could be a huge game changer.
Oh boy, yeah, look, this is all starting to very much erupt into a problem and struggle street. Matilda's, what looked initially like a very badly calculated play, they seem to have actually figured out the mathematics behind all of this, behind the win. Dark, yeah, once again, the big performer, really, for Matilda's actually starting to come through quite well in his position, all things considered. As it stands, 2 tanks remaining. Between 2 tanks is what stands between Matilda's and the 3-pointer.
Yep. I mean, still a big HP deficiency, which means that Whippet and Critical need to play this absolutely perfectly. Otherwise, they might find themselves finding a couple of bad fights. Goober trying to get safe, but a great shot from Whippet tracks Goober up. And now it's all really just down to how well Goober can find a couple of shots. But look at that from the Matildas. The focus absolutely perfect. And JS, the captain, not going to be much for longer in this world as Matilda's a big victory. I think this is only like, what, their second victory so far? This entire season.
Well, Cthulhu, look, at least you're not alone on the bottom of the standings. The Matildas have made sure of that, but what a night that they've had coming into this. They've played some very innovative tanks. They've sort of shifted their approach to the game, and I'll be honest, they've impressed in a pretty big way tonight.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, it's a great thing to see. You know, Matilda's finally starting to shine through. Finally, they seeming to, you know, figured it out. Sort of got to chill as well. It seems a little bit, and sort of take a step back. Sort of take a look at the bigger picture. From here on out, yeah, it's definitely seeming like this is sort of a good rise up for them. The race for, you know, being able to avoid the relegations is certainly still very much there. So I doubt that the teams will, or rather this very particular team, Matildas, will really give up right here, right now.
And I mean, Garath, the Panthers, I did talk about it. You know, you weren't quite sure Comets could make that leap into 3rd place, overtaking the Panthers, but after a loss like that, you've got to admit, it's looking like it could be a possibility come the end of the season.
Definitely need to see that consistency, though, before I'm going to put my eggs into that basket. I think this is a positive step in the right direction. Sorry to be a negative, Nancy. I think this is what I wanted from the Matildas, what I expected from the Matildas early on. They definitely had the potential. Look at that. Look at the pen rate and the accuracy coming out from all of these players. That's exactly how tight this game was. And still, like, that's why it was so close, coming down to a couple of single shots, coming down all the way to the wire. Honestly, there was, what, Crit wasn't a single shot, Whipper wasn't a single shot. You look at JS, he gets ignited. That is about 2 shots worth of damage. That could have been the game changer, honestly. But you gotta give it to the Matildas. They took a fight, they won it convincingly. And they did it with Saxon not even doing much. He was the first focus point, and he got absolutely obliterated.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever seen that, Cthulhu. I don't think I've ever seen someone pick up the bagel, the single fantasy point. Honestly, I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah, look, it's quite a feat to achieve, but for all intents and purposes, it was a very worthy sacrifice for Matildas to acquire the win, it seems.
And look. It is an unfortunate evening for the Panthers, but again, Kirath, I think it goes to prove why Crit is consistently in that top players leaderboard week in, week out. Because you look at the numbers, I mean, 4 kills, 3,600 damage, didn't miss a shot, didn't fail to pen a shot, and it's just consistent standout plays from him and Whippet, of course. But we get to see what Matildas are capable of when everyone steps up to match him.
Absolutely. Like, this is, I mean, and that's good to see, because for the Matildas, a lot of their struggles early on was actually, I feel like for some of the brawlers penning their shots. You look earlier at the pen rates as well as the accuracy rates. Now they're starting to get warmed up. They're coming into the series. You can see it was much, much better on. I have a lot of emphasis on brawling and pen rates because Matilda's team plays a very heavy brawl style. When you're playing brawl style like that, you need to make sure every single shot counts. You miss a couple of shots, it increases your chances of losing more and more each time. So, like I said though, 1 week, that's good. Need to see more to be fully convinced. So,
Well, look, Cthulhu, are you convinced after seeing something like that? I mean, Matildas, we've talked about all season. You know, this is not what we've expected of them. Not at all where we expect them to be at the leaderboard. You know, the caliber of the team, the capabilities, the potential. Does this begin to feel like this is them starting to live up to that?
Maybe. And it's a very sort of 50-50 maybe, where I think comes next week. I think if next week is going to be as similar of a performance from them, where they show that they have good cohesion, they got over all the problems happening for them internally, where it's whatever it is, whether it's not listening to the comms or listening to the wrong comms, whatever. If next week is the same or rather in the same vein of that progressively good performance, then sign me up.
Well, yeah, I think it very much is sort of the general standing. Like, yes, cool, this win is good, but it's about consistency. It's about multiple wins, of course. But look, let's give them their dues. The Matildas did win, and joining us from the Matildas, it is going to be Saxon coming in for a chat. Now, mate, look, let's be honest, the season has been a bit rough. Talk us through sort of what went into tonight. What changed? How was your approach coming into this matchup resulted in a win?
Yeah, look, it's definitely a fair criticism. I think
All right, looks like Saxon, being a bit of a dad over there, might have muted himself. I mean, we need someone like Elfish Guy to kind of do it. So, look, we can blame technology. It's easy for me to blame Saxon because he can't say anything. What are you gonna say? Exactly. We'll wait and see if they can obviously get it resolved. Maybe they'll get it resolved in the back end. So I'll keep slandering Saxon and I'll cop it and land obviously afterwards. But
toxic washed caster.
That's it. I mean, can you even be toxic and wash if you were just terrible in the first place? Can't be washed if you're just bad.
Cthulhu, this is why they tell you not to meet your heroes, because they might not be the greatest people in person. But look, I genuinely, I'm hoping we do get him back. I do want to get some insight into what went down, because I mean that's a pretty dramatic shift. I mean you're in sixth place for a reason, and you then take down third. Like there is something that has to have changed between last week and this week to pull out a result like that.
Yeah, it definitely feels like quite a big step up in the way how they seem to have even communicated. I mean, you look at the way how they acted at the end of the matchup, where it should have been, or at least I personally initially expected a very big sort of explosive positive energy coming from them. It was like, hell yeah, we won. And at this point, you look at them, yeah, they're all already smiling. They knew even before the round ended, yeah, look, it's a wrap. We managed to get them basically where we wanted. And it sort of seems like each and every player has calmed down in terms of that. It's no longer, the personality getting in the way. Yes, you still have Whippet and Crit that are performing absolutely stellar to the point where they are top 5 of the leaderboard. But it definitely looks like it is now each and every player are sort of performing their specific role. They're doing specifically what needed to be done, and on top of it, they have their own sort of conscious decision-making process going. And it's not just sort of one person, full sending on the comms, and then the rest are just like robots listening to them.
Well, unfortunately, speaking of robots, we will have to cancel the interview, unfortunately. So, I mean, look, it just means that Matildas have to go and win next week, so we can get those questions answered finally. But look, we'll take it as it is. They won. They played much better than they have in previous weeks. They're showing those signs of what could be the final form for this Matildas roster. Hopefully, we do get those indicators in the coming weeks. They'll be able to carry it on. But Karath, I mean, what does it do to a team like that if it is just sort of that flash in the pan moment and it stalls once again?
I mean, you just got to make sure you don't. Like, you look at what worked for you this week and kind of go from there. Whereas you look at what you went wrong. And this is what I meant by losing at the right time and learning at the right moment. They've got enough experience in that roster to kind of go, all right, the first 6 weeks, this is what we should have done better. These matches where they were close, how we refine it. Let's tighten up the loose end, so to speak. all right, what can we take out of tonight? How can we be made this 9-4-0 night against a solid opponent like the Panthers? How can we do better next time? What can we build up further? This is actually the perfect time to start peaking. But as you said, if it's a flash in a pan, then that's kind of it. Like, you don't have many second chances when it gets to this stage of the season. There's like, what, 3 weeks to play after this? You don't have much.
Look, okay, let's... It feels rough. You know, there is a little bit of a negativity associated with bottom of the leaderboard for a reason. But I mean, Cthulhu, what would you put it down to? Do you reckon? Was it a case of they've just come in with a different strat book? You know, the comms are there. This is the right 5-man that they want to take to the field each week. What was the indicator to you, at least watching and casting that match, that was coming together for them?
I think partially, yeah, I do want to say that the roster seems right. I mean, between the level-headedness of Saxon, knowing him as a player, and sort of players like Dark coming into the play, just they're there to do the job kind of thing, whether it's be that rotating powerhouse or to be the person to basically just soak in the damage. And then you have the players like Whippet, like Crit, who are able to keep consistently outputting the high damage numbers. It just seems like, yeah, they found the right players for the right role and the right sort of timing, where it's just everything seems to have sort of fallen into the right place. The puzzle finally sort of been assembled. Now it's more so about finding kind of where do you apply this sort of puzzle now to the rest of the bigger picture.
Well, Cthulhu, I got some good news and I got some bad news.
Oh yeah.
Look, we've calculated the fantasy. I suppose we have to give him a shout out. We have to give him his dues. Elfish has climbed into the top 3.
Ooh, top 3.
He's
Nice.
got his podium finish. For now, we're not done. There's still many weeks to go. But you've also cracked on 2 more places. You're up into 11th. So look, you might have fallen a place in the predictions, but in the fantasy, which as Gordon Elfish Guy Mays always says, that's where it really counts. It's the fantasy that makes or breaks.
Oh look, I mean, I'll take the win where it can be. Finally, congrats to Elfish to be able to crack top 3 at least in fantasy. So it's good to see that he's able to achieve his dream and being able to get closer and closer to the greatness in fantasy. But look, yeah, I'll take my dubs where I can. It is what it is, though. Sad that I ended up being initially the one leading sort of the charge initially with the predictions, at least calling the predictions, then everyone copying me, but then me realizing that halfway through the broadcast, maybe I should just be the one to bait everyone in to pick my picks and then go for my own actual pick.
How have we just gone from it is what it is to these other casters are copying my homework? No, it is what it is. You suck it up and you deal with it.
It is what it is that people are copying my homework, but still gotta point it out where it needs to be pointed out.
Look, Karath, let's talk about the evident winner tonight, though. Production coming up.
True.
They go 2-1, whereas the rest of us just absolutely in the bin. Maybe, just maybe, like the Matildas, they've found their moment.
I think it's... Look, I still need to wait for more. Like, I get it. This is really hype where we're going, all right, these guys have made... Let's just say an upset, because I think definitely you look at the results.
Oh, no, I'm not even talking about Matildas. I'm talking about production. I'm saying they've finally started showing up.
The broken clock is right twice a day. That's all I can say.
Well, I'll take my cue from production. Let's have a look at the results for the evening. Let's not beat them up too much, because otherwise you might not hear me anymore. There you go, on your screen, 3-1s across the board. It was the Adelaide Action X. Out of nowhere, picking up the first win of the evening. Then the South Sydney Scorpions righted the script, and then the Melbourne Matildas just took it, ripped it up, and threw it out the window. So, I mean, arguably, Cthulhu, 2 upsets tonight.
Yeah, 2 upsets. Look, rather impressive ones, might I add, as well, given that the 2 teams that we didn't really particularly expect to win out, it seems like they've realized that there's minimal amount of pressure on them, and certainly that worked out perfectly well for them. Not as much, as things work out perfectly for me, but look, I'll take the L gracefully. probably not so gracefully as it is already, but look, yeah, at least double digits for me.
Yeah, this is like you share that spot with production. They're right there alongside you, of course. But again, rightful top of the leaderboard. I'll take it. First season here in the Premier League, and I'll admit I'm a little concerned. Mac is hot on my heels, and he's a bit of a unit, so I have right to be concerned. But look, you can only call it so far. Let's have a look at the team standings, though. Let's see where everyone is on the leaderboard. Let's forget about us for a moment. It's about the players, of course. And, wow! Okay! Would you believe the Sentinels are no longer locking down first place, Karath?
I know, it's the Scorpions now. Let's see how long they can, but this is... Look, it's going to be a fight to the end between these two teams. They're far and out and above at the moment. I think we've got our first and second locked in, but the fight for third and fourth has now heated up after tonight, for sure.
Well, I mean, Cthulhu, we talked about it. That race for first place does kind of start next week, where both our city teams will be going head-to-head. And you'd have to imagine whoever walks away the victor from that will likely hold first place for the remainder of the season.
Look, yeah, definitely a curious sort of timeline now for ourselves, to the point where even Matilda's one win away from being able to actually be able to climb themselves out of the fifth place. In themselves and Comets, things are certainly starting to heat up, and yeah, as you guys saw highlighted, third and fourth place, even the first and second. So 3 different contestants for which I'm very much all excited for.
Well, I did allude to one of those matches for next week. Let's have a look at the rest of them. Of course, there are 3 in total. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that affects the leaderboard. Up first, wow, okay, what a match. The Adelaide Action X taking on the Melbourne Matildas. So the upsetters from this week going head-to-head. And then, obviously, Perth Panthers take on the Cairns Comets in match 2. And then we have an absolute barn burner to close the evening out, of course. The North Sydney Sentinels taking on the South Sydney Scorpions. Karath. Honestly, this is prime week, honestly.
Pretty much, yeah. A couple of determining matches to see who kind of goes ahead before the penultimate week. And obviously that first and second matchup, the ultimate kind of rivalry, which is just extended back, the North Sydney Sentinels and South Sydney Scorpions. Always a good one. Always a fun one. So, I mean, yeah, like that is the one to not miss if you guys are not interested in drops. I hope you guys are interested in the gameplay. For those not interested in my face, you'll be glad I won't be here next week. So make sure you do tune in. For those that have just muted the stream.
Yeah, look, I think Alphish had other things to do. He did talk about muting it earlier, but let's not dwell on him. He'll be back next week, unfortunately. I think I'm pretty sure I'm out as well. It would be a bit unfair to give me 3 weeks in a row, but look, I'm kind of upset. Can I do over, maybe trade? Next week seems like the fun one. I'd like to be there as well. I know I'll be there in the Twitch chat, if nothing else, so I'm excited for that. But you know what else I'm excited for, gentlemen, is our B League as well, that is currently going on at the moment. And apparently we've had some rather interesting matches so far. Match 1 on Monday will be the Bundaberg Badgers versus the team that is obviously going to win it all, the Auckland Archers. No bias once again. Match 2, Hawthorn Hellcats taking on the Lismore Leopards. And the final match of the evening, Fremantle Fireflies taking on the Canberra Centurions. And I mean, Karath, you've been keeping an eye on these guys. What do you reckon? Is this the week to watch as well?
Oh, 100%. I mean, every single week is definitely a good one for B League. If you guys are obviously from the Asia server over here for Water Tanks, you get rewarded for drops that you can use on the ANZ server periphery. You can come support like a couple of noticeable names as well. There's not only new talent coming through the ANZ BL, there's also plenty of veterans that have come back in to have a bit of a good time. Kind of just get that competitive spirit going, and we're all there to make sure that we're enjoying and supporting, obviously, grassroots down here for the B League.
I mean, you're coming to support us, so we might as well go and support another one of our leagues going on. We're not there, but the Japanese league is currently going on at the moment. The league with some of the best names in the competition out there, of course, is absolutely looking like a huge competition to keep an eye on as well. Match 1, the Fukuoka Bulls taking on the Tokyo Crows. Hokkaido Foxes take on the Chubu Thunderbirds. The Yokohama Sharks taking on the Osaka Krakens as well. And that is going on tonight as well. So don't miss out on the opportunity to catch some more Hot Tanks action. I mean, Cthulhu, look, I'm jealous of next week. I'm jealous of these names. The Japanese league has really hit it out of the park.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, they have been showing us some really cool plays as well, and plus on top of it, I mean, even the rewards from the Twitch drops have been quite nice. But absolutely, yeah. Look, I mean, the designs as well for some of those teams are just absolutely stellar.
And look, the future is a very, very exciting one, of course, with all the tanks action going on, and potential that there could be in the future. I kind of want to say it. I want some merch. I would absolutely rock the hell out of an Osaka Kraken hoodie.
All of them are pretty solid, to be honest. Like, even the players as well from the JPL, a lot of, like, noticeable names if you've ever played on the APAC server, obviously. So, yeah, like, it's definitely a good time to tune in and take a look and kind of see even just different regions have different metas and just how they orchestrate and conduct certain strategies.
Yeah, look, I'm kind of glad that New Zealand doesn't have its own competition going on, because I can only imagine the meta would be a quad bike and a grenade launcher. So it's about as equipped as we are in terms of heavy vehicles in the country. But, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure on the broadcast with you tonight, but we're done for this evening. We are going to be throwing it on over to the Japanese League in just a moment. So if you keep for some more action, stick around. If not, we'll see you back next week. Have a good one.
I mean, CJ as well is just going to stop the CS's position.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still been quite a gargantuan effort. Poor Waimu gets set on fire amidst all of that. But yeah, look. I mean, it's still been quite a gargantuan effort. Poor Waimu gets set on fire amidst all of that. But yeah, look.
Bye.